Top of the episode. Hi, everybody. We're going to get into it. This is going long. Check the episode notes. You're going to get some timestamps for present day, wilderness, theories.
And then also maybe when we go through the trailer at the end. Yeah. Just so that you don't have to, like, if you're not, because we went a little nuts on the theory part because so much happened that confirmed and or denied stuff we were wondering about. So
yeah.
So
here we go.
You're listening to The Watchers, a true crime podcast where this week we're covering the intense case of the missing Canadian birders. What happened to the three explorers that stumbled upon I can't finish it. I tried so hard. You're listening to The Watchers. I'm Jodie.
I loved that. You didn't tell me that's what was happening.
I caved at the end. I hadn't written it out, so I lost my train of thought.
At the end?
I caved.
I'm Andrea.
And wow. This is what we've been waiting for. Not that we didn't have faith that this was coming. I have to give us credit. We've been saying all along, this is how they do this show. Mm-hmm. You know, a 10-episode season. There is the sort of big opening couple of episodes. There's some setup. And then there's the second half. And we are fully in the second half.
You can just feel it's
accelerating.
The last like 3 episodes of every season are just like, it feels like it's what a roller coaster ride where it's like episodes, 3 through 6 or whatever, right? Are the up. And then we just get to kind of.
What was the one at Great Adventure?
King Dakar? That's the...
No, there was one before that was like the big deal when
Great
I was
American
in high school.
Scream Machine.
That was it.
Nitro.
No, it was the Great American Scream Machine. It was the first big roller coaster I went on.
Batman the Ride.
Oh, I didn't realize I was opening Pandora's box with that one. Okay. Wow. So, I don't... God, where do we start? Okay. This was such a blast. Like, it's so amazing to say that about an episode where they finally killed Ben.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, no, we're not. No, you have to accept it now. His head was on a stump.
Until
his actual head.
We'll get there, but until the carving, I was like, well, Misty so far is the only one we've actually...
You're such in denial.
Man, what a heartbreak, huh?
I know, but,
Inevitable.
They did it in a way where I think the creators knew that the only way they could do this without us really being destroyed by it was to make it necessary for him.
And fairly peaceful at the end. And we'll get there. We're going to start in the present.
Yeah, we're going to start in the present.
We have to save that ending for the end.
Oh my God, I know. Just a quick note. This episode is one of the ones we mentioned a couple episodes ago that Emily St. James, writer of a compendium to Lost and one to X-Files, and her partner Libby Hill were writing for Yellowjackets. They are credited as head writers on this episode. So,
and 2 quick Emily St. James things. Her new book, Woodworking.
Yes.
I just listened to. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I'm so excited to. But she was just on Love It or Leave It and gave a really great interview about the book. And so I just want to give a little plug for that. I also didn't realize that she and Libby had a fictional true crime podcast together.
I didn't either.
It's got a couple of seasons from like 2018 to 2020 that sounds so fun because it's about 2 people who solve cold cases and also have a true crime podcast. And so that just sounds... It just makes so much sense that Emily is writing for this show and now Libby.
Yeah, 100%. It's so funny. Like I said I wasn't going to dwell on the Reddit of it all, but the haters from last week on Reddit are mysteriously absent right now.
They're too busy eating crow. Their hands are just full up on humble pie right now.
All the crows that fell out of the sky, they're just eating them up. I will say there were a number of people that were like, okay, mea culpa. Yes, this is really good. Like there was just so much love for this episode.
Hell yeah.
As there should be. Okay, so we're going to start in the present. We're going to kind of go through timeline wise. It does seem like we weren't sure before if the timelines were synced up in terms of how much time had passed at each. But it does seem like in this case, the adult timeline is progressing. Like we're seeing things happen much closer together.
Yeah.
And in the teen timeline, they're getting like time jumps. So, but I kind of forgot when we see Shauna, she comes home around 2 a.m. And I was like, where the fuck was she? But they were like investigating Lottie's death. Why was she out till 2 a.m.?
Yeah, because the last time we saw her, she was hugging Lottie's dad.
Right.
So who knows?
So what was she doing until 2 a.m.?
Great question.
There's so much time missing from these ladies' lives. I am suspicious of all of them. But she's sitting in the car for a minute. We hear Jackie's voice. We hear Misty. We hear the Queen of Hearts song. All of the things that she thinks are kind of haunting her at the moment. And Jeff is waiting up.
Oh, man, boy, am I worried about Jeff this episode.
So I'm worried about Jeff. I think this is a real stretch, but I have seen I've seen people suspicious of him as well right now. He's such a goober that I can't imagine him plotting anything.
He'd have to really be hiding.
Yeah, and I don't think he's that good at hiding. So
No.
I don't think that there's anything there, but he had some scratches on his hand that people were noticing. He had like 3 little scratches on his hand that were very visible in one of the early scenes. And people were like, that they don't do stuff like that necessarily just for the hell of it.
Would he kill Lottie?
That's the suspicion.
Okay. If he does, though, that doesn't make me suspicious of him overall. That's
Right.
just Jeff trying to take care of his family. But I just feel like he
Right.
would have told Shauna. Or maybe he would have, to protect her, as if Shauna needs protection, not told her.
Yeah, the suspicion I saw was that he was trying to protect Callie from Lottie, but like...
Well, I mean, protect Shauna from the knowledge that he...
Oh, yes, right. But I just... Jeff didn't seem nearly as concerned with Lottie being in his house as Shauna did. So,
right. And also, there's no way that if Jeff killed somebody, it wouldn't be all over his face for us. Maybe not for Shauna and Callie.
That's why the suspicion is there, though, because his reaction was so over the top. And like, we got the no book club reaction, but this felt a little bit like he seemed a little too shocked.
That's funny.
Perhaps.
Huh. I don't know that I felt that, but I also am never suspecting him of anything because
I know, because he's perfect.
So I wouldn't have been watching for anything like that.
Right. But we were reminded in this episode that he knows everything, at least everything that was in the journals. We don't know how much Shauna continued to write after this incident.
Right.
If she continued to write everything that happened, he knows a lot more than we thought. But we get another great Jeff line here.
I was about to call the cops.
And you know how I feel about cops now. Oh, Jeff.
He's the best. He is
the best. Shauna is continuing her paranoia / legitimate suspicion of things happening around her here. She says that cops say it was an accident, but come on, disgraced cult leaders don't just fall down the stairs and die. Which, sure they do.
It's so funny because the show, if you take Shauna out of it, is starting to convince me that there is something going on beyond just the girls. Not something supernatural, not something...
Yeah. Yep.
But anytime Shauna is sure about something...
Yes.
She's proven wrong.
Yes.
We see that she is so misguided, that her thought process is so clouded, that she's so self-centered. So the second she says something with certainty, I'm like, oh, I guess Lottie just fell down the stairs.
Right. Yeah. And I felt that way later on with Misty. We'll get to that. But like the introduction of a character that is slightly grounded in reality compared to the girls, like really highlights how paranoid they all are. Mm-hmm.
She says it so certainly. I am saying that Lottie was murdered.
Yeah. Yeah. But Callie overhears this. Another person I'm getting more and more suspicious of. But this is where Callie is like, oh, fuck. And she goes to get the tape that she still has not shown her mother. What is she doing with the tape? She doesn't know how to play it. She just stashed it in her desk drawer.
So funny. I didn't listen to it. I didn't know how. I think, though, I kind of was wrestling with that a little bit. And I'm like, if I were Callie, I might be afraid to listen to it because of my suspicions of my mom and not maybe being ready. Right. Like just knowing that there's probably something that I'll never be able to unhear on that tape.
That's fair. That's fair. But I do feel like I would be a little afraid not to give it to my mom, knowing everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So she goes to get the tape and she says, like, maybe this has something to do with who killed Lottie. Shauna is just like, she goes into like, let's escape to a local hotel that everyone knows about.
I don't know what Again, she's so certain and so suspicious, but something about her all along is that she, like, it's weird because I keep wanting to say she thinks she's the smartest person in the room. There's but it's not that, I don't know how to explain it, but she does stuff like this a lot.
Yeah.
Where she, like, makes a really dumb decision like this.
With complete certainty.
Exactly. Yes,
just
exactly.
Like, I know exactly what we need to do. Mm-hmm. We need to go to the Jolly Hitcher. The hotel where I cheated on you and you met with the loan shark.
Why does I have a really important question. Maybe now's not the time for it, but why does the Jolly Hitcher have valet parking?
And looks like it's a cabin from a state park when they go inside?
Like, what's...
Yeah. Well, so, okay, here's the thing. The Jolly Hitcher, isn't that also... That's where she had sex with Adam.
Right,
Yes?
and it's got... Oh, maybe? Okay.
Is
maybe? Yeah, it is.
Because that's where they had martinis in a very modern-looking bar. Which makes sense with the valet parking. The outlier is that weird interior.
Mm-hmm.
And I did see someone from New Jersey on Reddit pointing out that there are plenty of sort of shore hotels.
Totally.
That still have that, like, weird interior vibe, which is totally
absolutely.
true. But they don't usually mix that with valet parking and a martini bar. To me, it's like, why does it look like that?
Right.
Like, maybe it's one of those things where I'm going to read way too much into it and it's probably nothing and it's just a stylistic choice.
Oh, maybe it's like, okay, so we've never talked about this. Hold on. We've never talked about this place on this podcast, but we've talked about New Jersey as the world. And it is just the trashiest, like, you can rent by the hour kind of hotel that acts like it's a big fancy hotel. Mm-hmm. And the remarkable thing is it has these theme rooms that it has not updated since, like, the 70s or 80s. So there's, like, a jungle room and a problematic, like, Asian themed room and a cave room. And so maybe the Jolly Hitcher has the same. And Shawn is just so sentimental. She always picks the cabin room because she misses the cabin so much.
I don't want to belabor this point too much, but that's kind of why I was like, why does it look like this? Because it looks like a cabin.
Right. And
like, it's not
we know these adult women love their wilderness motifs.
So much.
So
much. Yeah. So that was what kind of gave me pause there. Was like, wait a minute.
You know what gave me pause?
What gave you pause?
The bear at the end.
Okay. I knew it was going somewhere like that.
I don't have my soundboard with me. I'm out of town. It's heartbreaking.
Oh, thank God. Okay,
we got
we got to keep going. Yes, but she says, just pack a bag, just the essentials, the brakes, the freezer, now this, someone is trying to kill us. I just have to point out Shawn is a terrible mother. To say to your child, someone's trying to kill us.
Yeah.
As a family.
Really you.
Yeah.
If anybody.
And also, even if it is the entire family, as a mother, your goal is not to freak your child out at every possible opportunity.
I know we've been saying it since day one, but she really is a bad mom.
She's a terrible mother. I will not be dissuaded from that.
No.
So then we get credits. After the credits, in the present timeline, we get Misty and Carl. For the woman that we saw in the first season where we were supposed to feel super sorry for her, that, like, she couldn't get a man and, like, she was being kind of, like, awkward and weird on the dates and the guys were trying to get away from her. Her citizen detective community, the men in that community, love her.
Well, and it's funny too because it's like when she's trying to, like, use her skill set to, like, bring somebody home,
right?
Like, she fumbles it.
She's too intense.
But when she's using that same skill set for murder investigations, she's crushing it.
Well, one of the most attractive things is seeing someone do something they're, passionate about.
That's a really good point.
She's so passionate about being a citizen detective. He clearly has a crush on her. Mm-hmm. And she clearly just wants him to get some information on the biological material collected from under the nails of a dead woman.
Is this from a murder?
I don't understand how Christina Ricci is capable of saying lines that are so insane and making them so just, like, matter of fact and believable. She's so good at it.
She's really the best.
But he's going to try because, she's Misty. She goes to get her car from the lot, and Walter texts. All of the Walter and Misty interaction in this episode is via text and via voiceover, which I kind of like because it plays to the sort of corny relationship they had when they showed them in the hotel, and the split screen and the like different voiceovers they've used. I think it makes sense with them.
And the fact that they started out as Citizen Detective Board rivals.
Yeah.
This is how they sort of, I mean, we're going to get a Walter and Misty reunion, I think, where they're on, at least think they're on the same side, like some sort of, and putting them back in the place of the more like playful back and forth.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, but I've enjoyed, because we don't only hear the voiceover from him, but when we get to the DNA evidence from Carl, when she reads his email, we hear his voice. And I'll say it now just because it's so funny to me. When you hear him like reading that email, you hear him sniff in the middle of it, which is such a small, perfect detail of this awkward man. Like, it's so perfect. Anyway, but right now Misty is pissed off still at Walter.
Back off.
He wants to know where Shauna is. Back off, ass face, in all caps. God, I love it. She is a frequent all caps texter, which as a fellow traveler, I appreciate. Sometimes you just have to like emphasize your language in that way. And she says, put that in your pipe and smoke it, Sherlock. But he's Moriarty. She's Sherlock. Come on, Misty. So Shauna and family arrive at the Jolly Hitcher. And I wrote, it looks so old. It doesn't look like the version before. We talked about this, but that was like so weird to me.
Yeah, it's really odd.
Callie is increasingly frustrated with her family's like really kind of stupid at this point in secrecy about what's happening.
I know.
She says, why would I want to know more about being marked for death?
Great question.
Yeah. But this is where, like I said, we get reminded that he has read the journals. He said, like, you know, how bad is it? Like the stuff from the journals.
He says, I need the truth. And it like almost pains him to. Yeah. He's like struggling here.
He really is. He's like clearly trying to push a little bit more than he normally would to get her to be honest with him, because he knows there's more going on, but he also like understands Shauna and knows that he can't push too hard.
He really breaks my heart here because she says, I need you to trust me. And he immediately agrees.
Yeah.
And then says, you have to trust me too. And Shauna says, you know, what Shauna agrees, but like Shauna will say anything.
Yeah. Well, and clearly she doesn't, because
the
first time I watched this, I kind of, it slipped past me until he left the room. But when I rewatched, it was clear from the very beginning, like she acts like she's dizzy. He goes into caretaker mode. He makes her lay down. He says he's going to go get her snacks. They have a cute little interaction about how he's a snack connoisseur,
which they've been extinct for thousands of years, so I don't know what he's talking about.
And then you missed the soundboard. I know, I'm sorry. You can always insert it in post if you really need to.
It's a really good point. Thank you so much.
I'm so sad I just said that. But he says he's going to use the secret knock, which I love. Which one? Of course, Jeff has secret knocks.
You know, surprise me.
He's like playing with mystery and danger and all of that in his like behavior, and she's living it.
It's like in a weird way reminded me of Walter and Misty, that like these women are just in a completely different reality than everybody else around them.
Yeah, and the only people that like live there in it is them. Like they're in this little separate society still.
That's right.
But as soon as he leaves, she sits right up and calls Ty.
Oh my God, Jodie.
Yeah.
This is bananas.
I loved this scene so much because it's so fucking silly.
It's so silly. It's so like almost like not sitcom-y, but like just the reveal of it all. Okay, so
so Ty's getting a massage. She has sparkly nails, long nails, which we don't need to talk about that. But
if you know, you know.
Yeah. And Shauna calls Ty to talk to Van, which is really funny.
Mm-hmm.
She says, Van and I aren't friends like that. Besides, you're probably 5 feet from her right now. And of course she is.
Yep.
Van is standing there in a robe.
Is really funny.
Yeah. And of course, because Van is our old obsolete technology museum in boxes, she wants to know if Van is a DAT player.
Yeah, I definitely have the ability to play any and all unidentified tapes.
I love Van. This is a type of person that I am very close to or adjacent to. I am the camera version of this, and I appreciate her so much.
It's fun to watch her because, Lauren Ambrose coming in a little late and not having as much time with the Van character, but you can really start to feel young Van in adult Van.
Yes.
These last couple of episodes, and this one especially.
I totally agree with you. Yeah.
She's
the
doing a great
sarcasm
job.
a little bit, like, when she first meets up with Ty in season 2, when we get the reveal that she's alive, she feels like an outsider to these people a little bit. And that makes sense. They've been separated for a long time. She's purposely, clearly, like, removed herself from this group. But now she's kind of, the more she's around Ty, the more she's becoming like that teenage version of herself again.
She's like a little more sarcastic, a little more, compared to Ty, no, but like a little more playful.
Yeah.
It's fun to see.
Yeah. Van does not understand that it is an emergency to Shauna because everything has been lately and nobody understands why.
Right.
It's the boy who cried wolf thing. But when Van comes back into the room after getting off the phone, Ty has ordered filet, a bacon cheeseburger with fries, and 2 Maine lobsters with drawn butter on the side.
And that filet, of course, you don't need anyone to tell, but it is rare, of course.
And for people not as deep into this nonsense as we are, just a reminder, Ty is a vegetarian. She has been eating meat all season. Other Ty, dark Ty, whatever, is in control here, clearly.
It's funny because they seem to confirm it this episode, but it was pretty clear all along. Yeah.
Yeah. They've been giving hints all along. The biggest one until now had been last week with Sammy, but there had been hints all along.
Yep.
I mean, if I had to say when I thought that kind of started to kick in, it would be the accident with Simone, even like that far back.
If they told us that other Ty had been fully behind the wheel, since she was behind the wheel, I wouldn't be surprised. Right. I think there's probably more of a struggle between the two.
Sure.
If we went back and watched up until a little longer, but I would bet if we had to mark the moment, it would be earlier than
absolutely
we were thinking.
Yeah. Speaking of Van's sense of humor, she asks, did I somehow manage to knock you up when she sees all of the food?
That's what I mean. That's such a young Van thing to say.
Because we see a lot of like young Van being very sort of like funnily crude about sex.
Exactly.
Also. But I just have to say, as someone who recently spent a lot of time in hotels, that is such an expensive.
Ty's loaded.
I know, but oh my God. Lobster is expensive already. If you get it in a hotel, they mark it up like 50%.
It's, $18 for a side of fries if you get room service. Yeah.
Oh my God. I had a $6 blueberry muffin in a hotel last week.
In-room massage where you don't have to
She's just throwing money all over the place. So Van kicks out the food guy and the masseuse, and Ty literally pouts.
Man, we are going to get so into Freud when the show is done. I just can't wait to talk like... Other Ty is all id. Other Ty is just all id.
Yeah. Because she's acting like a little kid. She's like, Van took away my toys.
Right.
But finally, I've been waiting for Van to just be like, Ty, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, why do you not give a shit? She's been like hinting at this and like dancing around it. But she finally is just like, you don't give a shit about anything right now. And Ty finally says, I think what you would expect to hear. I lost my family, my career, Lottie, Nat, the love of my life is battling cancer. For now, I just want to feel good.
Pause. She doesn't say for now. She says for now.
Right.
She's really laying it on thick.
Yeah, that whole speech just sounds like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to say right now. Like, it has a ring of truth to it because it is true. And I'm sure part of her inside does feel that.
Yeah. But so Van sort of like, but Van falls for it. And she says, like, our friend sounded really scared just now. And Ty drops it so fast. About a tape. Who even uses DAT tapes anymore? It's gone. She is right back. That's, yeah.
She turns on a dime, and it's very much the dark side of her.
Yes.
That is just very calculating. But this is where we get our first.
Yeah, who does even use DAT tapes anymore, Jodie?
So in the case of the 3 missing Canadian birders, a DAT tape was found buried in the woods. Years later, would it play? It would.
It would.
It would. I got to work on that voice.
You're doing great.
But Van says, in my experience, like weird garage bands and super intense birders. And stops.
The way that wasn't first thought in her mind.
I know. He had, we'll get there.
But fine.
Thing around his neck. Yeah. Okay. But she stops. It occurs to her. She looks at Ty. Ty, I think, gets something. I don't know if she's fully like there with Van in that very moment, but like she understands something has changed.
Right.
Van tells her to get dressed. Misty
So
in the city.
The scene.
I need Misty in the city. I need this Sex in the City, but with Misty. With 3 completely different women, not Shauna Van and Ty. No. Other women.
Some fun women who will play along with Misty.
Exactly. But she gets a text from Walter. He says, I'm sorry. Look left. Consider it a peace offering. I just want to point out.
The way that limo pulls up is so funny.
Yes. The limo pulls up, says, Misty Quigley? She says, who's asking? He said you'd be like this. This is perfect in every way.
It just would simply work for me, Jodie.
So I was just about to quote you because you literally texted me that last night or yesterday when we were watching this. You said, the trash, the limo, this would work on me.
100% would. It's perfect because he
knows what
the limo, which is like a big gesture.
Yeah.
But it's not to like pick her up and take her somewhere nice.
No.
He delivered the trash to her via limo.
Yeah. Like if you compare it as a romantic gesture to last week where Ty finally gets the horse and carriage ride for Van. I'm not sure if that was last week or the week before, but that's like a big romantic gesture that of course we have suspicions about. But this is his version of that.
Totally.
Because he knows Misty doesn't want a horse and carriage ride. Misty wants 2 bags of Lottie's trash to pick through on the side of the road in a parking lot.
Exactly. And it's also, strategic for Walter, right? Because I believe that he couldn't find anything worthwhile for him.
He wants to see what she can find.
Right. We're starting to see the teamness of them kind of coming back together.
With Mr. Tattersall's deepest apologies.
I can't help it. I know we just talked like 2 weeks ago about how we don't want to see Walter and Misty together, and Walter really doesn't get it, and he's being controlling in a way we don't like, and Misty doesn't have to accept the love he wants to give just because he wants to give it.
Right.
But this would work on me, and I
might be back on too,
Team
right?
Walter and Misty. Yeah,
like in the text he says, I couldn't see anything in it, but maybe a master investigator will.
So smart.
And like I still feel like we're gonna get a Walter reveal that he is not what he seems.
Oh, I said everything I just said, and also totally, absolutely,
exactly. Apparently, back to Van and Ty. Apparently, at some point in the 6 weeks before we got back to these people after Lottie went away and the cult shut down, Van moved all her shit.
What?
From
Jodie,
Ohio
listen,
to Ty's basement.
Listen, 2 queer women on this podcast, we're allowed to say this. This is the most like U-Haul.
I know.
Like what you still, I have to imagine. I mean, maybe not. Maybe Ty is the sole owner of that house. But I'm like, I think you and Simone still own that house together. Your kid's stuff is still in his bedroom. What are you two doing?
I know.
Who packed your stuff?
Did you guys go business?
A business. Did you guys go back to Ohio?
Right? And go get all of her stuff.
All of your stuff?
Because she has a box full of old tech that like, that's part of like.
Right. If they took a day trip to Ohio to pick up some things that Van needed, that wouldn't be one of them. They're not
getting a box with a phone and a DAT tape player in it.
What the hell?
Yeah. That's like all of her shit in Ty's basement in boxes. Crazy. absolutely nuts. I'm aware of the U-Haul stereotype, trust me, but like this is pushing it. But she finds the box of old tech. There's a phone. I have to point out, I had this phone in my room.
Rules.
I was an only child. I was a latchkey kid, and my parents basically, I almost said abandoned me. They just weren't home. So I had my own line. As soon as I turned like 13 years old, I had my own phone line, which is a huge fucking deal. And I had that phone on that line.
I really think about that. Like if I were a parent now, because I had a phone in my room with my own line pretty early, and I had a TV in my room.
Me too. With
so
cable.
Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. And I was like very young.
And neither of us grew up with much money. And so the cable thing is notable because that was not cheap.
Right. But so all of that to say, what do we say about this scene?
So a lot of people are taking this as confirmation of the supernatural. I still think that's... You can look at it that way if you want to. Basically, things are metaphors. Experiences are happening to these women that are not necessarily based in reality. They're not necessarily actually happening to these women. Some of this is in their heads.
It's so funny because, I've always been open to the idea of the supernatural showing up.
Yeah, same.
Something about this, despite it being maybe the most supernatural thing we've seen, made me the least open to the possibility I have ever been. And
it's so blatant. It's like Ty is calling her from the past. Or Ty is calling her from the
inside.
Ty is in Get Out.
From the Red Room.
There's exactly.
And I don't think it's... Because then it's like, okay, well, if it's not supernatural, then is Van hallucinating? And I also don't think that's the case.
No.
I just think this is
it's
own...
a metaphor.
Yeah, and I don't know,
And that's fine if you want to think it's supernatural. I have no problem with it. I just can't see it. I see it as this is Van's instincts telling her that Ty, real Ty, not other Ty, whatever, Ty's soul is trapped and is reaching out to her.
Yeah, because I think if we could talk to this Van, she wouldn't, and we're like, hey, what happened when you were in the basement? She wouldn't be like, oh, Ty called me on a phone that wasn't plugged in.
Right.
I think she'd be like, oh, I had a gut feeling that there's something going on with Ty.
Right.
Anyway, Ty shows up. She's still having a great time.
She's having a blast. She has 2 different colors of box cutters.
There's so many options.
Just in case you want to, use a red or yellow one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she does say the voice on the phone, which it doesn't say Ty. It says woman distorted. She says, I can't help. There's a space there. I don't think it's I can't help. It's I can't.
And then help.
Also help.
But it could be read either way. But Van doesn't tell Ty what just happened. She's like, nope, got it. They leave the basement. Misty's going through the trash that Walter left for her, finds the Bamboo Cafe takeout container. I want to point out here that in her near-death dream, when Lottie was freezing to death and was in the mall, I believe it was Chinese food she was offered or was about to eat.
I think you're right. Wow.
So,
oh, man, I love that.
There's a lot of things this episode that have been seeded earlier, I find it very satisfying. But she looks up the restaurant and it's a 2.5 star rating, a C health rating, which in New York, no, I'm not going to a C rated place unless it's legendary and has no vegetarian options.
And no ashwagandha for her smoothies. Lottie's not going to a place like this.
I bet they use plastic straws.
Totally.
Absolutely not. But she stalks the restaurant in her sunglasses.
Misty stakeout with the baseball cap and the glasses.
And Nat's leather jacket still.
And of course.
She probably sleeps in it.
Oh, 100% she's sleeping in that jacket.
But we get the reveal that I had lost hope on.
I know, me too.
I was so gone on this. I was like, oh, it's such a shame. I loved that character. I love that actor. So sad we're never going to see them again. And we get Lisa back.
We get Lisa. There she is.
I could not be happier to see Lisa.
I know.
I loved her so much, and I am so happy to see her back. And this is what I mean about a character that is, even as a former cult member, so much more grounded in reality than these women. It's an interesting contrast. We get another callback in the next scene with Jeff and Kelly watching their favorite show. Repo Divorcees.
Repo Divorcees. It's so good.
Another show I would love to see.
Jodie, they say the 2 best days of your life are when you buy a boat and when you sell a boat.
But they never account for that third day when your friendly neighborhood repo gals simply take it away.
God,
I wrote the whole thing down. It's
just
so good.
Back to back. Appointment Television, TGIF. It's Misty in the City.
Yes.
And
Repo
Divorcees. Oh, and then the Ghost Watchers or whatever it's called on Evil.
Oh,
when they do the Jersey episodes.
Absolutely.
Put them all together.
That would be Appointment Television for sure.
That's right.
And it's reminded me of the scene where a couple, like last season, where they're joking about getting a cat and Jeff and Shauna are making eye contact in the living room with Callie, the 3 of them having like a family moment. And we see them connecting then because it's after Jeff finally finds out about everything and things are out in the open. And they have that same vibe here. Like, they're laughing and watching the show, and Jeff and Shauna make eye contact over Callie as she's laughing, just in this like very parent way of like, we're doing our best. Like, I see you, we're trying to make this work. Yeah. But immediately the phone rings to ruin the whole thing. Ty calls. They just can't live in the normal world.
Nope.
And Shauna says, I have to go out.
Well, I will say, Callie asks where she's going.
Yeah.
And she tells the truth, which I was surprised, but she, the vibes were good here. Does, so, yeah.
Yeah. But then when Jeff wants to come, again, Shauna's like, no, you're not in this.
Right.
You stay here with the kid. Mm-hmm. And Callie says, like it or not, I'm a part of this, and you guys need to stop acting like I'm helpless. She's not wrong. No. But neither is Shauna. She says, you don't need to protect me. And Shauna says, that's exactly what we have to do. We're your parents.
Right.
Jeff is slumped on the bed like a teenager. It's so cute.
I love him so much.
Shauna's being very honest here, saying we haven't always done the best job. And Jeff, slumped on the bed like a teenager, says, we're trying to do better.
His little head up. We're trying to do better.
He's so cute. But then, I'm telling you, Callie is either being a smart, suspicious teenager or has a lot more going on. And I don't know which way it's going to go.
Anytime I get suspicious of anyone, I worry that these women are like having a negative effect on me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, she is just a teen girl, but she is Shauna's teen girl.
She's Shauna's kid. And yeah.
Who knows?
And we're about to be reminded in a slightly later scene that she is the age that Shauna was when Shauna was I almost said on an island in the woods.
Yeah. And we talked about this a lot last week, but it really kind of like Callie's character and what ends up happening with her will have a huge, like, what am I trying? The like, what they decide to do with Callie's character will tell you everything we sort of need to know about this show. Because is it going to end where Callie isn't involved and she gets to kind of live a life without these women? Or does she get sucked into the trauma, of it all? We'll find out.
Yeah, it's a real like leading indicator of the direction. Or canary in a coal mine?
No.
Is it a canary in a coal mine?
It's a Caligula in a coal mine.
It's a Caligula in an ether mine.
Yep.
But then, so the whole point of what we're just saying about Callie is that she gets up, she hugs Shauna in a very like surprisingly loving way for Callie so that she can sneak her phone into Shauna's bag.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And she didn't have a lot of time to think about it.
How does Shauna not feel that?
Again, this is another one of the Shauna things where it's like Shauna is suspicious of everybody.
All the wrong people.
But nobody. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. She says, I just want our family to be okay. I'm sorry, your kid. Your kid does not say that. Exactly. That should be a red flag.
Right. But Shauna's truly never thinking about anybody she should be thinking about.
No. Jeff hands her coat and they do these like air kisses, which I thought was really funny.
And just that he even hands her coat is such a like sweet, like.
Yeah, he's trying to be like, he's trying to care for someone who doesn't want anyone to care for her. Like, who doesn't respond to that.
Jodie, you were not 13 in 1999, I think, when everybody was reading The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
No, I was not.
But
I was graduating college.
Something that's important to keep in mind is we accept the love we think we deserve. I started to say that as a joke, but it's also true for these women.
Yeah, 100%.
So Shauna can't let anyone love her.
No, especially people that are closest to her theoretically.
Right,
like
exactly.
Jeff and Callie. Like those, that's what she fears the most.
Right.
But they're in the valet parking now of the Jolly Hitcher. I really hope there's some dumb reveal about why that room looks that way. That's all I'm going to say.
I know.
Because valet parking
makes no sense.
Shauna's wearing sunglasses at night. The camp.
I know.
The silliness is just like, they can't drop it, and I'm so happy.
Mm-hmm.
She gets in the back seat of the car. They can't come in because Jeff's already in his sleeping boxers.
Already in his sleeping boxers, Jodie.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's really good.
I love it. But so we hear Van pulls out the DAT player. They put the tape in. And all we hear is little bits of it. We hear someone say, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, what is this? And we'll talk about who this is later on. Because I think we know now. Because now we go back to Lisa and Misty. Lisa's leaving work, and Misty creepily just shows up behind her like a cat.
It's a very Pee Wee Herman scene. Lisa just wants Misty to leave her bike alone.
Her bike alone. I know. Misty says, is that my delivery? And Lisa, at the moment, we don't understand this comment, but she says, I'm sorry, you can have the money. I don't want any trouble. And we think maybe it's the delivery she's making, but we find out later on why she says that, I think. Misty knocks over her bike, which is really just mean and unnecessary.
So she's in like private investigator.
Yeah.
Like
she took an oath.
Yeah, exactly.
She doesn't say that here, but she's kind of throwing suspicions everywhere, including at Lisa. She says she took all of your money, your freedom, and oh my God, your clothes. And I was wondering up until this moment how Lisa had felt after the escapades at the end of last season.
Right.
And this is answered here where she says, yeah, I was in a cult that ruined my life. I don't recommend it. But murder, not all of us turn our trauma into stabby.
Perfect. That's such a Buffy the Vampire Slayer line.
Yeah.
And just like knowing what Emily St. James is interested in, like that feels like a line that I'm not surprised is in this episode.
Yeah, I love picking those things up now that we know someone a little better who's a writer on the episode. Like we know what they're into. And she realizes that Misty's not going to leave her alone. This is where she says it. Misty says, I took an oath on vacation days at work. Who did she take an oath to? The citizen detective, like, community?
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably. Now that you say that, yeah.
Yeah. Lisa will talk to her, but only in public, where everyone can see if you try to murder me again.
Smart Lisa.
Absolutely. You don't go to a second location with Misty unless it's in public.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But now we're getting a little bit more of the tape in the car. Yeah.
We hear hard to hear in the present. It's cool to see like pieces of the wilderness though coming through really directly in the present. We haven't had that really.
Those screams and those like wood sounds are really becoming more and more important and also clear to me at this point. So we hear the whooping and the noises of the girls making, and then we hear someone yell no, which we will get to later. And they turn the tape off, and it's 43 minutes, I believe, and we only heard like a couple seconds. Well,
I think that's 43 minutes from Callie putting the phone into Shauna's bag.
But I do think that there's a lot more on that tape that they heard that we didn't.
I'm sure.
If it's not a full 43 minutes, it's definitely a longer period of time.
Yeah.
This is where we get the line Van said from the trailer. The only people who know about this are us or dead.
And people were hearing that as we are the only survivors left. Us. Right. Or are the other survivors who are dead. But now we know from the wilderness there is an us who are the team. And there are other people.
Yep.
Who are at the very least.
The tailies.
The three birders.
Yes.
Well, we don't know that yet, but
yeah, that's what's indicated here in that line for sure, I think. Ty wants to destroy the tape, but Van smartly points out, obviously, it's not the only copy.
Right.
That would be crazy. Shauna is pointing out that all of this is targeted to her, which is true, but also...
Well, it is and it isn't, because all of this, we don't know if any of it, other than the tape, is real.
Right. Well, the Queen of Hearts thing in the bathroom with the phone, that seemed pretty...
But the that's a good point. But the
and
freezer...
someone watching her. Yeah.
We also... You know what's funny I hadn't thought about until just now? Is if it's Melissa...
Mm-hmm.
It's possible there is only one copy of the tape, and the giving it to Shauna isn't a threat. And it's not that Shauna's being targeted, it's that she's being pursued. Mm. You know what I mean?
Stalked.
Yeah. Stalked much?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because all of these things that are that are happening to Shauna, these seeds that are being planted, the tape, the freezer, the being watched, which we feel like is real because we're seeing it from that point of view.
I think the things we can be certain are real is that somebody left a phone for Shauna to find playing that pointed song.
Yep.
And somebody delivered this tape to Shauna.
Yes.
And it's hard not to read that as menacing.
Right.
But there is something fun to think about, that it's just some misguided person trying to appeal to what they think Shauna will find romantic.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we said this before, but like, there are a number of possibilities on the table. One is that everything is connected and the same person is doing all of this. Mm-hmm. And another is that there are multiple things happening right now.
Right.
And Shauna is connecting them in their head because of their tendency to put red string on a corkboard. Right.
And we've said over and over again, like, people in general are pattern seeking. Mm-hmm. And especially when you're trying to make sense of something that really can't make sense no matter what. Right. Like, it's not surprising that Shauna's doing this.
No. And it reminds me of like when Nat it reminds me of when they were looking at the candles where Travis died, and they make the shape of the symbol.
Yes.
And the same thing with the map when Van is like mapping where those trees are and they make the shape of the symbol. It's like, you can make a lot of shapes out of those things.
Yeah, you can make whatever you want. Exactly.
Yeah. But Shauna finds Callie's phone here.
Yeah.
And this is another emergency. Everything's an emergency to Shauna right now. Yeah, she's just like, I gotta go, which seems a little bad timing.
100%. I have the phone.
Yeah.
Callie and Jeff aren't going anywhere.
Exactly.
I might want to stay with these people and figure out what the fuck we're gonna do.
Exactly. I just want to mention, none of this is important, but I thought it was funny. I looked at the other recordings on Callie's phone. They are...
yeah, they were good.
Alana Cinnamon Challenge. Don't do that, kids. The other ones were Coach Morrison being stupid, physics lesson spelled wrong on Tuesday, Jim Rant, and Chloe Guts screaming.
Jim Rant.
But Shauna has to go because it's an emergency. And Ty, as she gets out of the car, Ty just goes, what the fuck?
Tawny gives such a good line read here.
And she's right. Like, what the fuck? Why are you getting out of the car right now? Jeff and Callie are playing poker. I would not have a deck of cards anywhere fucking near me ever again.
I have all caps in my note. Did you think there was going to be a Queen of Hearts in one of their hands?
I very carefully looked at the cards when they put them down. I wrote it down. I know.
But I wonder if they're hinting that there will be.
Right. I mean, why are they fucking playing cards? Like, they could be doing anything.
In the same way, I would just not have pictures of fucking mountains and trees in my home.
Yeah.
I would also not have cards around ever.
No.
Although, again, maybe Shauna hasn't seen it. Maybe Jeff got it from the vending machine. Right. And Shauna...
I mean, it is the kind of hotel that would have a deck of cards around.
Exactly.
But I think part of the reason they're playing poker is because we're getting this like sense of like people bluffing and people deceiving each other. And also that Callie has the upper hand in this case over Jeff, because Jeff has 3 6s and 2 2s, but Callie has 3 aces and 2 7s. He says, you're hustling me. Shauna comes in.
This is
anyone who's my mother never killed anyone, but I had a mom who could be scary. And the way she says, Callie, can I speak with you? We need to have one of our mother-daughter chats. The chill
I know
that went down my spine.
Well, and it's also like Sophie and Melanie do a great job, but I think you feel the distance between how angry and cutthroat and just flat out nasty young Shauna can be. And we talked last week like, oh, well, she's probably deep in the throes of, you know, postpartum psychosis and in the middle of it, and has done a ton of work to bury these feelings deep down. But you're seeing, for me, this episode, I was like, oh, there she is.
Yep. Yeah, because I think that when she got back, you know, we don't see that part yet, but she does end up married to Jeff and has a baby and tries to, you know, assimilate into normal life. Like, she has to have buried this shit super deep.
And it's not to say that we don't see flashes of it. Killing a rabbit and secretly feeding it to your husband and daughter is pretty dark. So pretty it's dark. Not, this isn't out of kill nowhere. Adam Martin,
but that was, you know.
But that was, even in that scene, we see her flashback. It's young Shauna that we see in that shot when she does put the knife into his body.
And I think the difference, and I do think we mentioned it at the time briefly, was the calculatedness of the way she acts when she's full on, I almost called her Dark Shauna, when she's full on like cold killer version of herself versus the her that she was when she killed Adam, which was a little bit in a panic, a little bit of like emotional and scared. Versus the like, you know.
I know. Now I just want to list all of the moments where we do see young Shauna pop up, because again, that sounded like I'm not saying Melanie Lynskey hasn't been doing a great job of this all along. You just really see it here. But like when she goes to the chop shop and asks that guy if he's ever peeled the skin off of a person, like that whole thing. So. And
I do think that like it's important to point out that I think it's intentional that Melanie Lynskey is showing a different version of Shauna in the beginning, because like the rest of them, their teen selves are in there and are being slowly pulled out more and more by them being together.
Right. And for some of them, that's much easier to access than others. And some of them are fighting against
Misty's
it.
always been the same person, has never hit any of it one time in her life.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why she's doing the
most well-adjusted out of everyone. But the conversation here is really exemplifies what we're talking about. Callie says, I have a right to know what's coming for us. She says, you're a child. Callie says, I'm the same age as you were. And she says, go join your father before I do something I regret. Yikes.
Whoa.
She's a terrible mother.
That is. Like, to come from
That's
somebody.
A direct threat.
Yeah. It's
at your kid.
That was chilling. I was like, Jesus Christ.
And Callie says, I just want to be close to you. I thought you wanted that too. And in this moment, I was like, is that sincere?
I think,
or is she still manipulating her? I think it's sincere, but
I think the first half is at least, I just want to be close to you.
Right.
I thought you wanted that too is a little like, did you really think that? Has Shauna ever? But, you know.
But I think she has. I mean, you see Shauna get a little emotional here too. Like, I think both things can be true at once. Like,
I wrote, is she sad?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I do think that people want out of this show that I think is unrealistic is like they want to hate Shauna or they want to like Shauna. And Shauna's both things. Shauna is a fucking psychopath who will kill someone to get what she wants. And she also does kind of love her kid.
She, in the way that she has learned how to love and be loved, she's doing the best she can.
Right.
And she does want her to protect her family. It's not.
Yeah, I really think both things can be true because, you know, young Shauna was kind of a dick, but she wasn't a full-on psychopath.
Exactly.
From birth.
Right.
You know, like this happened to her.
Exactly.
So there are things in there that are still a part of who she was as a person before all this happened.
That's right.
But so Callie gets up. We hear Jeff watching sports, which is perfect. And Callie, of course, sees that Shauna's an embarrassment to Gen X. I'm Gen X and I know to check the recently deleted folder. Come on.
Again, I've said it 12 times this episode. We've said it 100 times. This is the kind of mistake Shauna makes over and over again.
Yep. And she does it again. And Callie gets that smile that makes me not trust her.
I know.
I do not trust her. So we get our conversation between Lisa and Misty now in a public place. Smart. But she says, Lisa says, last time I saw Lottie, she ordered a bunch of food and gave me a $50,000 tip.
Hell yeah.
That's where that check was going. And Misty says, you just took it? And again, Lisa, being a more rational human than them, says, I took it and moved on. You should try it sometime.
Yep. When bad things happen to me, I've learned to take it and move on. When something good does,
And this is where, when I say like being around a normal person points out the absurdity of these women, when Misty starts defending herself and says, my best friend died that night. And again, she's not her best friend.
First of all, so this is what's funny. She says, my best friend died at that compound that night. And then Lisa says,
don't kid yourself. Your best friend didn't die. You killed her.
Okay. What Misty zones in on is the implication. Like, she says, Natalie and I had a complicated relationship, which doesn't answer you killed her. Right. That's the response to best friend.
Right.
I thought that was such a weird...
No, that's the thing. They're having two different conversations.
Yes. Yep.
Lisa points out here that what we've been saying all along, like bringing them together is making everyone worse. She says she was trying to be better. You wouldn't let her be better. And Misty says, we had a bond you wouldn't understand. And they keep saying that. And I don't think it's true. I think if you explain to someone that they all went psycho in the woods
right,
and killed people together, I get that bond. That's a bond.
Yeah,
it's a weird bond.
But I get it.
I can understand it. It's not some mystical thing. And Lisa says, whatever, I don't actually care. I just really like her sort of willingness to brush off all of these levels of importance that these women have put on their experience.
Right.
And just be like, yeah, you went nuts in the woods. Okay. Right. I don't care. This is not my problem. She says, Charlotte, I love how she always uses the full names. She says, Charlotte fell down a flight of stairs. It's pretty cut and dried. But then we get a big info drop here. Yeah. Well, maybe big. We'll see. But she says, if you're determined to go down this path, start with your friends. Thaisa, she met up with Charlotte the day she died. I saw them right outside the cafe.
The two options at this point for me now are other Ty or Lottie huffed too much gas.
Yeah, I thought your theory about her trying to get close to quote unquote it.
That's what I want. I think I think other Ty killing Lottie, I'll be disappointed. I really like Lottie was trying to get close to it, huffed a bunch of gas and died.
And I feel like that is, we saw the title of the last episode of the season is Full Circle, right? There's a lot of things that could refer to.
Right.
I believe we're going to see Akila die from this gas that she's huffing in the next couple episodes. And so another way that Full Circle could apply is if Lottie also dies doing the same thing.
Right. That's a good point. Yep. Right. And also dying from the thing that the problem she created in the first place.
Yeah. And from this solution that she imagined and that she convinced other people was the way to go.
And the three we've seen, I'm spelling something out that's really clear right now, but the three we've seen really engage in this. Travis, Akila, Lottie.
And Lottie. And two of them have already died from it.
Right.
Yeah. That's why when you brought up that theory, it just rang it made so much sense to me that I can't see anything else being the case.
Well, and especially because it really gives us clarity about what happened with Travis too.
Totally. Oof, this next scene with Van and Ty. Van's had suspicions that things are going to get scary, but now she knows because Van is Googling the effects of weather on DAT tapes.
It's so funny. This is very how long do DAT tapes last outdoors? It's that thing of it sounds like I'm accusing Van. Obviously, I don't think Van sent this tape, but of anytime somebody murders somebody in real life and
then Googles how to get rid of a body.
So funny. It's not funny, but it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's very much this how much cyanide to die.
Yep, exactly. But as she's doing this, Ty bolts up in bed. And we hear this childlike voice come out of her.
Do you know what that voice sounds like?
What?
You're right. It's sort of childlike, but it sounds like Justice Smith at the end of I Saw the TV Glow.
Oh.
It's that inward breathing, suffocating, buried voice that gets more and more pronounced as that movie goes on. And referencing this and like taking time here to talk about this because Emily St. James has written extensively about I Saw the TV Glow. We know she's a fan and also kind of sees the ending of that movie as something you can read. I'll link to the article again, and we talked about it pretty extensively, if I remember correctly, in our review of I Saw the TV Glow. But of reading that ending either with hope or as totally despairing, depending on how you read it. And that so much of that movie is about how your younger self affects your older self and what you leave buried and what you bring to the surface and what you're willing to accept about your own reality. And there are just so many parallels.
Yeah.
That voice that Ty is using is it just feels so specifically that. And in that way makes me feel like, again, not supernatural. This is just...
She's trapped by the trauma that she experienced. Yeah, 100%. No, that isn't a connection that I made necessarily to I Saw the TV Glow, but that makes so much sense.
It was like just the first, but again, that movie's kind of always on my mind. So
right, but she says, "Van, please, you've got to help me." And then Van goes to wake her up, and other Ty takes over, which is it's so the flip of what we've always seen is like quote unquote real Ty, and then she'll wake up and be a normal Ty,
right?
Versus what's happening here. She's waking up and becoming the Ty she is during the day now.
And so Van really kind of gets this confirmed.
She's freaked.
Yeah.
Because so we've talked about how subtle Tawny Cypress has been with the flip, but you can see it if you're really looking for it. This is the first time it was like so fucking overt, you could not miss it.
Right. Yep.
She looks and does a slow blink like a cat at Van.
Yep.
And it's like, there she is.
Yeah, it's really good. She's so good. I love that she's got levels of this, that she can decide how.
I know.
This is like obvious to make it.
She says, "Why are you still up, huh? You should really get some sleep." Her voice goes into that smooth, like, yikes. So our last scene in the present, Misty is cleaning Caligula's cage. She texts Ty in all caps, "We need to talk. Call me." And Carl sends the results over via email. This is where we hear that voiceover I was talking about, where he sniffs during it. I want to also point out that the writers of this show love a fun, silly reference. His name is Carl Edgewood. The Edge of the Woods.
Edge of the Woods.
Edge of the Woods. But it's just a DNA sequence, which she realizes pretty quickly obviously isn't much of help without anything to compare it to.
Yeah. Huh. If only somebody...
Yeah. If only she had a bird to squawk at her to remind her via the plaque on his cage that says, "For the marvelous Caligula," that Walter made. And she like has, I mean, I can't talk. I talk to my cat all the time, but she looks at Caligula. She's like, "Fine," and sighs and texts Walter and says, "Maybe you'll have better luck." And I wrote, I think that hair that Walter has might end up being kind of important.
I know. It's
either a really big red herring or... was important.
I would not be surprised if this weren't a little bit of a Murder on the Orient Express kind of setup where we find out that everybody saw Lottie.
Yes, exactly.
And none of them killed her.
Right. Yeah.
Which is not how the Orient Express ends, but I just mean the reveal that like everybody has some involvement that we're not sure about.
But interestingly, this we think is the DNA from under Lottie's nails. So it is someone that she scratched.
Which, I mean, I get, I'm sure you can match. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like she would have been in a struggle with someone if the DNA was under her nails, theoretically. Right. I'm sure there's other possibilities.
So she could have, again, they could really, there's something fun to me about them really ramping it up where like, yes, but then we find out that when Shauna went to see her, Shauna tried to grab something out of Shauna's hands or like,
absolutely.
And it wasn't
Yeah, there's always a way that it could be not nefarious.
Okay, so something else I've been thinking about with that, and I asked the scientist that I keep on retainer, who folks might remember from our X-Files episode, Daniel, and he said I'm too dumb to really understand it totally, basically. But
this is a friend, right? This is someone you're involved with in your personal life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What he did confirm for me, though, is it's not totally outside the realm of TV science, at least. That what could happen is one of two things. Walter matches this DNA sample to Shauna because of Shauna's hair, and it's not a perfect match, but it's close enough that we think it's Shauna.
Right.
Or Callie.
Yeah. Definitely.
That DNA is actually Callie's, but it pops for Shauna because it's not. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. That had occurred to me as well, that if Callie is involved in this somehow, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, Callie killed Lottie, but maybe she was there that day or they fought or something.
I think we're going to find out that everybody had their like time with Lottie before she died, but that, we'll talk more about it as we get a little further into the episode, I think. But
no, I think that is probably where they're taking this, because I can't imagine they would have an entire scene with him taking Shauna's hair for it not to be anything. Like,
But I think they're pointing us to think that what's going to happen is we're going to find out it's Shauna.
Right.
And especially I know you're becoming more suspicious of Callie. I know we're kind of running all of the theories as possibilities at the same time.
I'm suspicious of Callie, but I'm not thinking they're going to have her turn straight murderer.
No, I don't think so either.
That's too big of a jump.
But I do think they are trying to build that suspicion.
Yeah, I actually think it's more likely that we are going to see Callie portrayed as something of a willing and then unwilling, like, partner to Lottie.
Mm-hmm.
Where she's fascinated by Lottie. She likes being told she's powerful, all of this stuff. And then Lottie's going to go Lottie, and it's going to get too real for Callie, and Callie's going to freak out.
Yeah.
And I think that's more in line with what we've seen in her personality so far. Like, she's still a kid. She thinks she's a grown up, and she was
the same age Shauna was.
Yes, true. But yeah, it took Shauna about a year in the wilderness to go full feral. So
exactly.
And again, I want to remind us that Jeff has scratches on his hand. I don't know why. I don't know if it's nothing.
Is it the cat? They've got a cat now,
I know. Well, that's the thing. It could be the cat. It could just be like a funny thing because, Shauna brought home a cat. And now Jeff looks like the rest of the cat owners that I know with scratches on themselves. Like the one on my arm right now.
Right.
Okay. Now we're getting to the hard part and the fun part. We have to get through the hard part first, though.
I'd forgotten we have to talk about this.
I know. We don't have to belabor it because I do think that it is all meant to lead up to this ending. Like, he is the bridge. Ben is the bridge, just not in the way that maybe we had theorized. Thank God I was wrong about that. Well, actually, I wasn't wrong about their intent.
No.
I was wrong about the result. I felt like they were keeping him alive, fattening him up.
Eat. They're 100% fattening him up.
Yeah.
I could watch. Okay, so what we get for the most part in the wilderness is Nat bringing Ben breakfast over and over again, and them kind of having their Nat and Benness of it. I could have watched 100 of just bring me a knife. Your hands can stay clean. The gun would be quick, painless. I need a bath. You could take me down to the stream. It's slippery down there. I could have an accident. I would watch.
Do you remember what she says shortly after that? Do you have it in front of you? Something about slipping and the gun going off?
Oh, when he says, the gun would be quick, painless. She says, and I say, what? You tripped and...
Like her father.
I can't believe I didn't. I was too busy worrying about Ben.
Yeah.
Man.
Like how her dad died.
Right. That's actually not an unreasonable... Other than Ben's not tripping because he's not walking. But that's a good point.
Yes, that's fair. But it's just like, there's something in there to me about like Ben as sort of older brother, father figure. Yeah. And how she has to actually kill him.
Oh, I'm going to cry. You're so right. There's another layer to that.
Yeah.
That it's tragic in 10 different ways. But I could watch him say like, or what if you feed me some berries that we know are poison and say it's an accident, or these goats look hungry.
Right. Yes. No, I know. The progression is necessary, to tell us how much time has passed, because we see the kind of leaves start to change and things like that. We see him start to deteriorate more.
His curls are so full and curly in the first one, and then by the end, they're so matted down. And
yeah. There's a really funny video on TikTok behind the scenes that Sammy Hanratty took of him like laying down in that look from that episode, and him like shaking his head like he's in a shampoo commercial, and she's like puts it in slow motion. It's great. But Nat starts to look really mad at him here. And I think it's because he keeps reminding her over and over again, you have a choice. Mm-hmm. This is not okay.
Right.
I am a person. You know who I am, you know, and she can't take it in.
No.
But yeah, she keeps getting more and more mad at him. He, at some point in this, tells her he did burn down the cabin.
Okay, so I haven't spent a ton of time. Are people believing this is a genuine confession?
I haven't seen much conversation about it, actually. Okay. And I think it's because, to me, it felt very forced and fake.
Totally.
We should link to this article. There's an interview with the actor who plays Ben.
Steven Kruger.
It's so funny. Like, the writers have never told him that he did it.
No.
But he has decided for himself that he thinks he did it.
But that his reasoning was to
scare them.
Well, to scare them into being
human
and like to work together because they'd have to rebuild. And
right.
Either way, that is sort of what happened.
Yeah.
But like she asks him where he got the rags and he's like, I don't know. I tore up some blankets. What did it matter? He's
just trying to piss her off so she'll kill him, and it's not going to work.
Especially because he says, I tried to kill you, not all of you, but especially you. When it's like, if he did, Nat would have been
the one he was concerned about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He'd be like, oh, well, she's going to have to go as well. That's sad, but.
Right. That's when I was like, oh, he's obviously lying because he would never actually have her be the main focus of his ire. Like, that's not at all who we saw him to be. But then he says, you sentenced me to death. Now you need to keep that promise. Please. And she shoves food at him and leaves. This is when she sees
she doesn't
Jen.
Shove food in him. That's later, Jodie.
At him. But she sees Jen as she storms out and says she's done. Someone else nurses him from now on. Bring Ben food to the chore list. Mm-hmm. We find out soon who that's going to be, which I think is interesting. The next scene with Ty and Van, this is straight out of Alone. They're chinking the huts, which means they're putting the ground matter, like moss and stuff and needles, into the spaces in between the logs for winter.
Oh.
That book,
because they read that book and it taught them. That's great.
That book must have had really good information in it.
I just want to, for our listeners, as we work through this, I'm not in the studio right now, so you might hear some background noise.
Yeah. These 2 weeks are a little off, you know. I was away last week. So we're seeing here, I think, an indication of a possible split between Ty and Van.
I think so.
Because Van is not looking thrilled about another winter. And Ty is like, yeah, but, you know, we're prepared. We have furs, food, shelter, fun huts.
Fun huts.
As a Van's sense of humor is just so dumb. I love it.
I know.
But it's like, you can see that Ty doesn't seem upset about another winter, and Van doesn't feel the same way.
Right.
You know? Like, some people have accepted that they are in the woods and that it's not a bad thing to be there anymore. And some people are still holding on to home. And I didn't think that Van was one of those people, but now I do.
Yeah, I think you're right. We see Melissa literally skipping after Shauna.
And, like, jumping on her back and hugging her like a teenager would.
Yeah.
There's so many moments where we're reminded that they're still teenagers. Mm-hmm. But this is totally one of them. Is it Van or Ty that says, do you think she makes her wear Jackie's clothes when they make out?
I think that's Van. I think it's Ty who says, I could be wrong, but she definitely makes Mel call her Shipman. Brutal.
This is so funny.
So funny. So mean. Be nice.
Yeah. And Mel like waves awkwardly at them. But I noted here, I think they say this a couple of times in this episode or in recent episodes, they're not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
That's not true at all.
Gonna get worse. But it's sort of like they see Mel as someone to keep Shauna from being the worst Shauna.
Yeah, exactly.
To keep her not happy, but
better. It's so funny because Shauna seems happy, and they cut to Shauna sharpening a knife. Or sharpening that knife is such a funny...
Or whittling or whatever she's doing,
Shauna seems happy.
Not happy. No. Not better, either, but...
No, but she's like staying out of people's way at least.
Yeah.
Not talking them into killing everybody, so...
Right.
I would take that as a win if I were them. Travis swings in on a rope like Tarzan. Where was he coming from? That made me laugh out loud.
I didn't write the Tarzan thing, but that's actually funnier. I wrote Travis hops out of a tree. Like,
he's fully swinging on a rope.
Spending a lot of time in trees lately.
Yeah. Oh, huh. Maybe he wants to be, you know how you climb a tree to get away from a bear, or you're not supposed to do that, whatever. Man, I wouldn't last.
Depends on the bear, I think.
Okay. I wouldn't last
I don't know.
in the wilderness. But he swings down so that he can talk with Aquila.
Yeah, who is, once again, holding a very docile bunny.
I know.
This is like, it's getting really creepy, the way that bunny is behaving. He notes that she and Lottie disappeared again yesterday. Like, time has passed, and it's clear that, like, Aquila and Lottie have been doing this cave thing repeatedly. They're still trying to find out more, and it's not working.
No. Aquila's seeing as much as she's supposed to.
Yeah. I wrote, Ben is in his enclosure. Mari is our new runner. Yeah.
It's my girl.
The three people that are really in charge of caring for him are the ones that would be the most inclined to actually take care of him, like, and not be cruel about it. He's getting really dark, though. She notes that it smells in there.
I thought it was going to be gangrene on that heel.
Me too. He says, I'm between cleaning ladies. Good help is really hard to find out here.
I love things must be grim if you're subbing in.
Yeah. But what's actually happening, he's on a hunger strike. He's just leaving the food to rot. And he just looks really, like, defiant. Like, it's Steven Kruger, if he's not nominated for an Emmy for this episode and the last one, like, the progression of him as, I mean, the whole show, the progression of him from the beginning to the end is startling. But even the last couple of episodes, you watch him reckon with the fact that he's probably going to die by these girls' hands. And he goes through all these different phases of, like, bargaining and, like, anger, and, you know, it's just, you can see it all happening on his face.
Yeah, he's really remarkable.
They have an impromptu meeting about this. Mari, Aquila, Nat, Lottie, and Ty are all talking. Lottie says, he can't die. He's our bridge home. I wrote, shut up.
I know.
In my notes.
Lottie's got to go. And then I think it's Ty who says, like, I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And Lottie says, maybe you shouldn't.
Maybe you shouldn't. I know.
I was like, that's...
Lottie, in this episode, we'll talk about theories at the end, but I'm shifting towards something with Lottie that I think is interesting. So then Mari asks Aquila if she's seen anything new. They're so desperate, but she has only seen her family playing soccer and Mr. Rigby's biology class. And Nat is openly kind of acknowledging that the bridge thing, as she refers to it, is giving them hope, whether it's true or not, and therefore it's important.
Right.
Also that winter's coming back soon, and they're going to need hope. But this is where, so Ty says, then we need to convince him to eat. Mari doesn't think it's going to be that easy, and Lottie says, I might have an idea. She is behind the scenes making things happen in a way that I don't know if it's completely, like, Machiavellian, but, like, she decided Nat was the next leader. She presents this idea of force feeding Ben. She's the, like, one bringing Aquila to the caves, giving Travis mushroom tea.
Well, it's always sort of been a not push and pull with her, but like an ebb and flow of how much they're actually listening to her and how much her, like, the choices she makes have an actual effect, and how much it seems like she's just kind of, like, flailing and...
Right. But I think what I'm realizing is that the times when I thought things were ebbing with her power, she was still doing things behind the scenes that felt like they had one purpose, but actually resulted in things working out a certain way. It just feels like why Nat, you know?
Right.
And, like, the people that she's choosing to influence. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's all intentional.
Right.
But I do think that Lottie, when we think has given up power, has maybe not given up power in as total of a way as we thought.
Right. Like, for example, passing it on to Nat, maybe she knew that keeping herself in power was going to be right. And not just that she was doing something selfless.
And that she put Nat in power because she wanted things to go a certain way, because she saw the way that the girls were going when Shauna was in charge. And then, like, when she later on says Shauna will lead now, like, that is clearly to me to keep Shauna from just outright killing Nat in the moment.
Absolutely.
And so I do think that she is seeing how she can influence even though she's not technically in power.
Right. And also maybe that Shauna was going to make a grab for power either way, and being the one to co-sign it puts her in Shauna's favor maybe. Who knows?
Totally.
That makes sense.
Misty, this next scene, man.
I know.
It's not here, but it's coming. This is the prep for it. Misty's preparing food. She says, I can't believe Lottie thought of this before me. I noted, did this maybe happen to Lottie at a hospital at some point?
Oh.
Like,
I'll bet you're right.
It's more something that would be associated maybe with an eating disorder, but also if you refuse to eat, you know, it might have been something that she did while she was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. But Misty feels complete responsibility for Ben, clearly, from the beginning. I mean, she took his leg off. Mm-hmm. And Nat is starting to crack.
You've got to be if you're confiding in Misty and hoping to get... She asked, did you ever think keeping him alive is a mistake?
Yeah. But Misty will not hear it at all. She says, let me take it from here. I liked seeing Nat and Travis together again.
I know.
And like kind of... Because the way that they left things with Nat and Travis, it makes it hard to make the jump to them still being in each other's lives when they get out of the woods. But now we're seeing them kind of come back together because they both have some sort of moral compass.
Yeah, you can see that he's really thinking about confessing to Nat that he faked the stuff with Aquila.
Yeah, he keeps to his lie, but Nat is asking, like, weren't you the one who said she would have the visions? Mm-hmm. He feels guilty, but he can't, like, admit it.
Well, they all have to protect themselves from each other a little bit. Even, you know, Nat would be the least of my worries.
But also she has this feeling of responsibility and, like, you know, she's not at this point stopping them from basically torturing Ben because she thinks it's what's best for the group.
Do we have to talk about the scene?
I mean, we don't have to go into detail at all. They basically force feed him.
What we do need to talk about is I think this is the first time we see them put masks on to do something horrific like this. To put masks, not celebratory fun masks.
Masks. Yeah.
They're hiding their faces.
Yeah.
To do this terrible deed.
Yep. No, I think that's right. I think that's important. And so Shauna is the bunny. And we don't know if they keep these roles, but as of this, Shauna is the bunny. Van has the sort of like robbing a store mask. And Misty has tights over her face. But no, I think that's a really good point. And then basically they force feed him. I noted in the first episode of this season, Ty ordered foie gras in that fancy restaurant.
God, oof, doof.
And that's
how
clearly what they're doing. And during this horrific scene, I just think it's notable who looks really upset by it. Travis and Aquila, right? They both look like aware of what's happening and not okay with it,
right?
But participating because they feel like they have to. When they come out, he says to Nat, that was fucked. And Shauna says, we'll get better at it.
Get better at it. That was chilling to me. Like in a way that kind of nothing else in this episode has been yet. Something about that is like just brutal.
Nat goes into the tent. Ben has coughed up as much as he could. Mm-hmm. He says, the service here sucks. He's still just dark and funny. But he asks why she can't just let him die. Mm-hmm. And she says they can't. And he laughs and repeats it. It's like, this is what I mean about the acting and the progression of his like understanding of what's happening to him. Lottie is praying to a tree. Go live in a stump, Lottie.
I'm just go live in a stump.
Go live in your stump.
I'm just
take
so
your
done
jars
with her.
Take your jars and go.
But Aquila's really bought in. She wants to go back to the cave. She suggests it.
Yeah. She wants to see if there's anything she missed. Mm-hmm. You can tell they've done this a bunch now. They've got the rope, the candles, the cave.
Yeah, they're good to go.
They're good to go. And Aquila just sees people dancing around the fire. It's flashing in and out. And then she sees the bear.
This. I love this so much. It's a stop motion.
Yep.
Like one of those like old timey, like Conan the Barbarian kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, exactly. So someone on Reddit mentioned Ray Harryhausen, who was an animator who did a lot of those films. Mm-hmm. His last film was Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was really cool. And it reminded me of, it didn't have the same look to it, but the absurdity of the llama with the voice of Big Pussy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The bear does grow a third eye at some point.
Well, 1, 2, 3 eyes on me. That's how many eyes are on. 3 at that point. And also the 3 people watching.
Mm-hmm. But Lottie wakes her up, and Aquila is feeling a responsibility that Lottie has put on her.
Yep.
To figure this out for them, and she can't handle it.
No.
So I think what's important to say about this scene, without belaboring the fact that Nat has to kill Ben, she's crying in the middle of the night, lying there with a candle, and just decides it's time. Travis is napping in a chair and sees her. They have a conversation here where he says, like, they're not going to forgive you for this. You don't have to be the one to do it. And she just says, like, if I don't do it, no one's going to. I have to. And he basically says he'll keep an eye out and that she should hurry because sun's about to come up.
Rise. It's so quiet, and I said peaceful, which is as peaceful as this can be considering all the hell he's been through. But I really love that they let this be. Like, it's not graphic. You don't even actually see the knife.
Thank God, yeah. Yeah, it's very fast, all things considered, because we've been watching him be tortured and beg to be killed for the whole episode. So the actual death scene was mercifully pretty short.
Mm-hmm. And she also kills him like a person. Like, she doesn't, we've seen them like slit animals' throats and she doesn't do that, which may have actually been quicker and less painful, but would have been a livestock kind of thing.
I was thinking that the stabbing him in the heart was intentional. That it was like, this will be fast. This will end it quickly. It won't be bloody. It won't be disgusting. It'll be as dignified as I can make this right now with what I have.
And he just gives that big exhale. And
they make it abundantly clear for us that while he has been begging to be killed this whole time, it's actually what he means. Because in the moment, he doesn't hesitate at all. He comes right towards her. He grabs her hands when she hesitates. Mm-hmm. Because I think if there was even a slight moment of hesitation on his part, we would feel like conflicted about this.
Right.
But instead, it's absolutely what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And she gives it to him. Outside, it's now daylight, and Travis is distracting Misty.
That breaks my heart because the sun didn't come up that fast. She stayed with him for a little while. We need to get somebody who's really good at lip reading to see what Travis is talking about here.
I know.
He's definitely stalling.
Yeah, he's totally stalling her. But finally, Nat comes out looking absolutely devastated, drops the bloody knife, wipes blood on her face. And Misty loses her fucking shit.
Nat says, they're like, why did she do it? She killed him, arrest her. Nat says, I kept a promise. And it made me think of Travis in the adult timeline, how she's so sure he didn't kill himself because they promised. And it's so important to her. Like we've said all along, if this show has a moral compass, it's Nat. Mm-hmm. And it's like, of course, that promise seems like airtight to her because this is what it means to her to keep a promise. So
yeah. So Misty yells murderer and arrest her.
I know.
Who, Misty? But everybody is sort of like having their own reactions. So Travis is like, let's talk about this. Ty is like asking what'd you do? Misty goes to Ben and like folds his arms, and it's looking like it's going to be really sweet.
Oh, that's better.
And then she gets emotional, and then she hits herself.
We've seen her do this before, I think once, maybe twice. And it's always so upsetting because that feels like something she learned at home.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And again, we know nothing about her childhood before this really, except that she was bullied. But I just,
right.
if we learn anything about what her home life was like, I have a feeling it's going to be really unpleasant.
Totally. But before we can feel too bad for her, she kisses a dead body.
And Shauna sees it, and she was like, I could have been doing that all along. We're okay with kissing dead bodies? I didn't know that. I was just putting makeup on mine.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. She kisses him. And not just like a loving peck on the head, like say goodbye to a loved one. Like, she kisses him. It's disgusting. It's one of the most upsetting things I've seen.
Okay, but is this her first kiss?
Yes. That's another reason it's incredibly upsetting. It's definitely her first kiss.
They're all starting to turn on Nat outside.
Yeah, everybody's freaking out.
Do you see who pushes her?
Yes, fucking Jen.
Get out of here, Jen.
Oh, I hate her so much. I hate her. Mel also, like, when Nat says it's the right thing to do, Mel says, shut the fuck up. Like,
the way Shauna looks at her, like,
know your place, lady.
Exactly. I love that Ty's ready to call another trial. Such a lawyer.
I know.
She loves trials.
She loves trials. Van says you do not get to make that decision for all of us.
Right.
To me, if you want her to be your leader, she actually does.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
She actually does have the authority to make that decision.
But it is funny that they all clearly are bought into the vision that Ben's the bridge home and that killing him.
Yeah. Even the people that were not on the supernatural side of things are like, I guess we need this. Like, you know, we have to keep him alive. Even
if all we're going to do is fatten him up and eat him.
Right. And I do think that that's the motivation for some of them, not the bridge home thing, but like the literal, like, well, at least we can eat this person when it gets cold. But Shauna says she's obviously guilty. No more trials. It's obvious what happens now. And Lottie, smartly to me, says Shauna will lead us. Everyone just kind of looks around, but this does stop Shauna. Mm-hmm. And she turns on a fucking dime.
This is Jackie.
I know it's Jackie. It's so Jackie.
Yep.
She's just channeling her dearly departed best friend / love interest / team captain.
It's complicated.
I get that you guys are angry, but we're still a team. We can't let this break us. When people die out here, we honor them. Which, you were ready to fucking rip this man apart. You cut his Achilles heel. You want to honor him?
I know. This is all she needed was a little bit of power.
That's all she ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give the wilderness what it wants. And Misty says, so she's just going to get away with it? This is rough. Natalie will prepare the feast.
The way she laughs a little bit before she says it. She's delighting in this.
So evil.
Terrible.
So evil. So then Nat is preparing to prepare Ben.
You know what's funny about this? I was like, God, this is brutal. Shauna's being terrible. There's no mercy or compassion, nothing. Poor Nat. But in the way that I feel like I always sort of have to also say this, they did make Shauna butcher a child.
Yes.
So of course she's a little less... I mean, obviously, because I was going to say Ben and Nat had a relationship beyond what the rest of them did with Ben, and Shauna knows that. But so did Shauna and Javi, other than Travis. They were also close.
Absolutely. And Shauna could have just stood there and ordered Nat around, but instead she covered Ben's face. She gave her some tips.
Right. It's still not great. I'm not saying that like...
It's not great, but it isn't... She showed a little bit of humanity in that solo moment with Nat.
And when I thought it was interesting, she says it helps me to cover my eyes, but I know what I'm doing. She's still covering her eyes. It's not that Shauna is such the stone cold killer butcher that she can do this without flinching at this point. She's still struggling with it.
Yeah, no, I think that scene could have been a way of cementing how horribly cruel Shauna has become. Mm-hmm. And instead it left a little bit of a door open for her as a human.
Exactly.
This is it. We're here.
We're here.
We're here. Everyone's kind of eating sadly, quietly by the fire. Mari sits down with Nat. I loved this moment so much. Mari says one thing and clearly means something else, and Nat clearly understands it. Mm-hmm. She says, what you did for Ben, to Ben. It was really, really, and then Nat says, I know. And Mari says, and you shouldn't have done it. And they just look at each other and we know that Mari is kind of relieved that his suffering is over.
Yep. That's my girl Mari. Never done a thing wrong in her life.
Oh God.
We are really starting to see where these camps are going to split, though.
Absolutely. In the beginning of the season, I was reluctant to speculate because it was not clear yet at all to me. It was so many things could change and go in so many different ways.
And these girls do turn on a dime. It could change again, and I wouldn't be totally shocked, but I think we are really starting to see it.
We're really starting to see it, I think.
This Ben death is really and it's funny, the Steven Kruger interview, I think that we both read, he's known all along that he was probably going to die in season 3. He didn't know how until the beginning of season 3, I think, or, sometime this season while they were shooting, but he knew that it was going to be something sort of pivotal, and this was going to be a real kind of like linchpin moment. And so we're really seeing that play out very quickly here.
His head is on a stump.
And like,
this is not a respectful death.
No.
Like
and even
what
if
they did with Javi and Jackie and like covering the, you know, and like making it as like so with the previous deaths, there was some sort of respect and or fantasy or ceremony around it to make it feel less brutal. They have his fucking head just sitting out while they eat. Like,
and well, either way, because I think maybe you could read it that they think this is how you honor him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not buying that.
It's not good.
No,
it's not good. They're not doing a good job. But
no.
I think they. I wouldn't be surprised if they're reading something symbolic in having his head there, like presented, as opposed to just like, you know, thrown off in a pile.
It's fucking twisted if that's the case, but I literally like just before.
Oh, is it twisted?
But literally just before, Shauna covered his face for Nat because she knew that she was close to him and that it would be hard. And now he's on display.
I know.
Like, that's notable to me.
I don't think displaying his head is an act of, they think they're being respectful for him. I think if the head is not just there out on display because they don't care and they're being like dismissive of his humanness.
Yeah.
If it's not that, it's them really leaning into the wilderness, bacchanal, all of that of it all, and having the head there as part of it as opposed to a side thing.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Van and Ty are commenting on how Shauna seems better now, that she's happier now, that she's got a little power. Misty.
The humming.
Are we there?
Her and Ben's song.
She's humming Breakfast at Tiffany's. It took me a minute to figure out what it was. I was like, I know it's something very specific.
I knew.
She's humming this song that she started singing while he was trying to poop.
That's their song, Jodie.
I died.
That's their song. So did Ben.
This show is a comedy.
The show is a comedy.
Yes.
My poor sweet Ben, but the show is a comedy. Okay, now we've really got to. Okay. What is going on now?
Okay. I'll tell you what I think. So Lottie, right, starts to see shit. She starts hearing whispering and laughing, but nobody is whispering and laughing at her. They're all involved in their own shit.
And the way that sound is, the like sound design here is we're not supposed to think maybe there's something in the woods actually making that noise. It's clearly coming from inside Lottie.
Absolutely. Static starts to crackle, right?
It's not the first time we've seen this. They've definitely done it before. One time was when Ben was in his hallucination with Paul. And there may have been one or two other times, but it was definitely then.
Yes. And she screams. And then in the captions, it says, creature rattles, comma, screeches. Everyone hears it, it seems.
Yes.
And then she starts to hum and eat really gross food sounds. I have a problem. You know this. This was hard for me. The fire goes kind of wavy. The creature screeches again. She smiles and sings. What I think is happening, again, this is a person off her meds that has had hallucinations. She has been going in that fucking cave with the gas with Aquila with a fucking like scarf or sleeve over her face. That is not going to protect you from the gas in the cave.
No.
She's been breathing gas just as much as Aquila. And so she's like maybe slightly removed from it. She's, you know, but she's in there, you know, when she goes to save Aquila to pull her out, she's got that like piece of cloth over her face that's going to do absolutely nothing. So to me, in my science brain, what is happening is that she is poisoning herself with gas and starting to hallucinate more again, which she sees as the wilderness coming back to her.
Yes, I think you're right. Also, it's interesting that everybody hears the screaming, the woods noises together.
The screams are not what they seem.
That's right. I have some thoughts when we get to the end of this, but I just really want to put a pin in that and the like artifacting, the like digital artifact of that it's kind of like visual static. She says sing. They don't sing. Do you know what they do?
They scream.
Well, they vocalize eerily.
They do.
That's eerie vocalization, Jodie.
They vocalize so fucking eerily.
That's all that is. These girls know what music is. It's not like they don't know what singing is, but they choose to vocalize
They're not
eerily.
singing. Can you imagine if they all broke out into Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Okay, so when Misty starts humming it, I was like, are they really all going to join in? And it's going to be just the silliest.
I know.
Because it could have happened.
I know.
This show could have done that.
But that wasn't the vibe they were changing to. They're all joining in. They're all letting loose. And honestly, I felt like this made total sense regardless of what you believe or don't believe. They need to fucking release something.
Yes.
They all had to scream. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah,
so
that's actually some pretty good like, trauma work.
Yeah. So they're all screaming and yelling. We see suddenly the scene from the outside, though, and it's lingered on. Mm-hmm. We see like a very clearly, carefully framed scene of the fire and the girls around it and the huts, as if we're seeing it for the first time. There's also a shot from above of them spinning and dancing around the fire, swarming.
Mm-hmm, totally.
With Lottie in the center. Yep. Again, I'm telling you, I have a new view of Lottie's role, or kind of going back to an older view, I think, of Lottie's role. She's in the center of the hive.
I think we said this last week. I will be totally unsurprised if, and again, we've cared about this to varying degrees throughout, and both of us differently, but I think I will be totally unsurprised if she is that Antler queen at the end.
I mean, the clothing too. Like we saw her in that mesh dress with the first bits of like fur on it recently. I also noted in the captions here, it says ominous, hopeful music. Oh. That's a very interesting combination of words. It can
be ominous and hopeful.
Ominous, hopeful music. We hear a more distant scream. Mm-hmm. We see a figure in the distance.
Mm-hmm. Who, like, at first you're like, is that Ben? Is that the ghost of Cabin Daddy? Yep. All of these possible...
Yes. I would request you don't use the phrase cabin daddy, but yes.
Oh, it's just the father of the cabin.
Thank you. But then first Travis, then Akilah see something in the distance. And Lottie yells no. Yeah. The no that we heard on the tape. Mm-hmm. And a man and a woman walk up. I did not see the woman at first, but there's two of them. So the most sort of generic white man nerd birder type. Yes, I know he's from New Girl, played Robbie, seen in the woods, birding, etc. Noted. Walks up, raises his hand.
Hello.
He
says it like, and I think aliens. I think for a second, he thinks they've reached an uncontacted tribe.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. Yeah. Hello. Like,
they're all wearing various rags and their like regalia for their eating ceremony. Like, they look fully nuts.
The jump scare. God.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's
He puts his hand up and says, hello. Everyone's staring. Shauna is like panting.
It is a face we've never seen her make before, and it is so fascinating to see them see something they have. Yeah, they're just not. It's not even that they're unprepared. It's this possibility doesn't even exist for them.
Yeah, and she was just declared the leader. Mm-hmm. Yep. Not okay.
Nope.
But then I've been calling, this guy does have a name in the images from this set. He's referred, it's Edwin and Hannah, I think, are the couple's
names
names
for them. Uh-huh.
Yeah, perfect. So Edwin, I refer to him as Rando, but Edwin notices something.
The way that it's so good. It's so delightful. It made me laugh. I mean, we're in the middle of such a dark, terrible moment.
I laughed immediately. He sees it, and the way he says, what the fuck? Again, like Ty earlier saying it in that sort of very, like, different ways, but very effective. And we cut to black.
I was truly delighted. I haven't been this happy watching a show. It made me...
I know.
And that I didn't, like, we knew a version of this was coming. I've been saying all along, and we know where this is going. They'd have to do some real work for the show to have it not go where we want. And sometimes it's really satisfying to not be surprised by something. But the way this reveal happened was a genuine surprise to me. It was so fun.
Because, like, you've talked specifically about them being, like, having a failed rescue attempt, them killing the rescuers, things like that. Like, this is something that you've brought up, other people have brought up. Like, it's not that big of a shock. But like you said, the way that they reveal it with this shot of this rando with the, like,
It's so mundane.
It's so mundane. And it's that thing that it's the extreme version of what we were saying with Lisa and other people in the outside world being around them, because their craziness is highlighted when it's like reflected against or paired with normal people.
Exactly.
And so we have this introduction.
Yeah, you're right. The most concentrated, saturated version. It rules. Just
real quick, there was someone on, I'm going to try not to do this too much, but there was someone on Reddit named Amanda the Magnificent who said, the late 90s was a weird time. We all liked Gregorian chants and Enya and Lilith Fair. I could see someone assuming it was one of those weird 90s things until they saw the head and no mood rings.
No mood rings. Totally. Absolutely. I don't know how you process that quickly, but yeah. Yeah,
no, he doesn't process it at this point anyway. So, okay. So a couple things that came up that I thought were interesting. So the couple is Ashley Sutton and Nelson Franklin are the two people we see, right? For people that want zero spoilers, or not spoilers, I don't know anything.
Because we don't, yeah.
But want their speculation to remain grounded only in what we see in the show. I'm going to say right now, some of the stuff that I am speculating on is informed by IMDb, looking at like next episodes and things like that.
Interviews where they've talked a little bit more about what we can expect. That
interviews,
kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. So if you don't want to know anything about that, then this would be a good time
to make like a tree and leave, and or to make like a Lottie and go live in a stump.
Go live in a stump, yes. But come back. So I just want to give that little warning because, again, I looked at a bunch of stuff on IMDb, and I'm also going to reference interviews. So currently they're each only listed for one episode, but it is out there that Ashley Sutton was reportedly booked for 4 episodes.
Okay.
6, 7, 8, 9, possibly. Okay. Maybe 10 in there and one where she's not. She's Pit Girl.
I think she's Pit Girl.
She's Pit Girl.
100%.
She is has long dark hair, is about the right size. The nightgown that she is wearing does not tell us anything about who she is or isn't, right? She's Pit Girl. I think that they're going to kill the guy pretty quickly.
Yes, I agree.
One of the things that was mentioned that I didn't notice on first watch, but when I rewatched it, I saw that when they see the people, Lottie slightly moves out of frame. Like she's going to get something.
Oh. Interesting.
Lottie, not real Lottie, the actress that plays young Lottie.
Courtney Eaton.
Yes, Courtney Eaton. They asked, I think you may be thinking of this as well. There was an interviewer that asked the cast to describe in one word season 3. Did you see this?
No.
The things that were the most notable to them. Liv Hewson said explorers, which is too big of a spoiler for my liking. But the part of that conversation was also asking them questions about what they did that season and what was interesting to them. And Courtney Eaton said something about, I believe it was getting to play with an axe. Yeah. So I think that there's some indications that Lottie is actually going to kill this man.
Cool.
She kind of fades into the background when they see them.
That's funny because she's done a lot, but hasn't been really active in violence.
Right. So there's that. The other thing is in the interviews with Ben and articles about this episode that I shared with you, they make it sound like there are 3 explorers. They actually don't make it sound. They state that there are 3 explorers. Ashley Sutton, Nelson Franklin,
and Joel McHale, which was a shock to me. I thought he would be present day. We see that silhouette. That looks like it could be. Lottie thinks it's Ben. Maybe she says Ben. That's him, right? I mean, you sent me a screenshot. You were like,
"That's how Jeff Winger stands."
That's how Jeff Winger stands. You're so 100%. That's the third one.
It's a tall, thin person that is not shaped like the other 2. That just like.
So do you? Go ahead.
It's so specific because when you see him kind of walk into frame. He walks into frame and then pauses, and the way that his body settles is 100% Joel McHale.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen him stand that way.
Do that. Yep.
So
you're right. That's him.
Where are you going with this? Because
So
it might
then-
be where I'm already
Okay.
here.
So I just said I'm sad that means we won't see Joel McHale in the present, but that's not necessarily the case. However, timing is interesting because I'll give you the first layer and then the second. So they don't see Joel McHale. He sees what's going on. He runs off.
Well, he doesn't run. He just kind of fades off into the
Well,
side.
I'm saying this is what we're not seeing. This is me speculating.
Right. Okay.
He sees what happens.
Yep.
Slips away. Nobody notices him because Lottie thinks she's got a vision. He runs away. We know they're not super close to civilization, so it's going to take him a while. They kill, what's his name, Edwin
and Hannah.
And they keep Hannah because they have already had the plan. They've had the thought we can keep somebody and fatten them up for the winter. So that's Hannah. She's pit girl. They eat her. But Joel McHale would have to take him a couple of months for the timing to line up that he makes it back, tells people, you know what I mean? There's something doesn't work quite right there. But I do think then the thing I was thinking before, and then I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah.
Before we just started talking, my theory was these people get caught, eaten, murdered, whatever. And people know that they're out exploring and where. And so that rescue party is able to find the Yellowjackets.
Yes. And I still think that is possible because I do think that it is just as likely that Joel McHale, whoever he ends up being, that third explorer or intense birder, runs off and doesn't tell anyone what he saw.
Why, though?
I don't know. Fear, something.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe he witnesses too much,
right.
You know? Or he doesn't, no one believes him. Like, there's all sorts of ways that, you know, because that could be his DAT tape also. Like, we don't know that guy was the only one. He had Nelson Franklin, whatever, Edwin had one around his neck.
Right.
But if these are explorers or scientists or, you know, wildlife biologists, right, they're all going to have that equipment.
Absolutely.
And also, just to clarify for people who don't spend a lot of time outside, there's a lot of people that work in, and I'm not saying this to you, Andrea, but I'm just saying this in general, like, because people were like, they're in the middle of nowhere. So people were feeling like seeing these civilians means either they're very close to civilization and didn't know it, or it makes no sense that these people would be there. But there is an in between because wildlife. My sister-in-law was a wildlife biologist, and she would drive into the depths of the woods in Maine where there was nobody around, would sleep in her car.
That's so funny. That didn't occur to me at all.
A lot of people were like, oh, this means they're like within a short distance of civilization because nobody would be hiking out there.
No, it just means that like, people who are prepared.
Right. And people who are there for a reason.
Spend a long time. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I also saw some speculation that, you know, maybe those explorers / scientists were there to study bird behavior, right? Birders. And
cool.
Maybe having to do with the fact that there is a mine there and there were birds falling out of the fucking sky. Like,
right.
You know, there's a reason why they would want to go there. My sister-in-law would literally, one of her jobs when she did this, was to study the effect of, I think it was wind turbines on bats and birds. And she would literally go out into the woods and count bats and birds.
Right.
You know, and so like it could be something like studying the effects of this closed mine on the wildlife of the area. So this connects to the birds.
Right.
Right. We've had a lot of bird references this whole time. We've got the Morse code from the voicemail. The screams are not what they seem, which is referencing
the
Twin
owls
Peaks.
Are not what they seem.
Exactly. You know what makes a screaming noise?
Owls.
A barred owl specifically.
Which you said episodes ago.
Yes. Sounds like a screaming woman.
Okay, but yes. This is where my other theory starts to come in that we've talked about, and it feels like maybe we're sort of talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
One barred owl screaming sounds like that. You're not going to have a flock of barred owls all screaming together, all layered up. I still think, and I keep saying artifacting, but the like that digital whatever or whatever thing that is happening when Lottie, I still think maybe what we're seeing is through the eyes of somebody in the present recounting what is happening. And so what the girls are hearing, this is a little head spinny. What we're seeing the girls hearing is what the girls remember hearing is the sound of this tape of them whooping and hollering blended in with the actual sounds going on, being replayed over and over in their memory. And I think we've talked on this podcast, but it's just true that like our memory doesn't work the way we think it does, really, where you think you just pull up a memory. You're pulling up the last time you remembered the thing that you remembered, and it continues to get warped and change and shift. And the cheesy way to do it is the last episode, you'd pull back from the scene and it would turn out this is somebody either sitting in like a therapist's office telling the story, or like somebody is finally writing a tell-all, or they're making a documentary, or it's Misty's true crime podcast, and you see that it is actually that. I don't think it'll be that
I hope
obvious.
It's not that direct, but
no, I do think that's that could be what's being hinted at with this stuff.
Well, and, we talked about the interview with one of the creators. It wasn't Ashley or Bart, it was the third one, Jonathan Lisco, about his interest in neuroscience and memory. Yes. Oh, we did talk about the Remember a Memory because it was in that interview. That's right. And Stephen Kruger brings up in one of the two articles that I read, brings this up about Jonathan Lisco's interest in neuroscience and memory again. And so I do think you're right that regardless of how it ends up coming to like show up in the plot, we are seeing this as a twisted version of memory somehow. Right. And I think people are still, I just saw again recently people being like, well, we're seeing what's happening. We're in there in the woods with them. And I just don't think we are. I think we're in their memory with them. Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that could also explain if that's also happening in the present to some degree, the stuff like Van getting a phone call on an unplugged phone, Right. And that's still not being either supernatural or absolutely real. Yes. Like absolutely. Everything that happens in the mind. Yeah. So I have a couple more little things. One, obviously, we need to mention in the context of this Lord of the Flies, because in Lord of the Flies, they get caught because of their savagery, right? And they feel shame. And in this case, they get caught in the middle of their savagery. And I'm guessing they don't. Or if they do, their way to handle it is to keep getting more savage. These people aren't. No. So the identity of the birders obviously is very new to us, but I saw someone wonder if they were Walter's parents. And that's where he comes from. There's lots of interesting ways to think about how they could be connected to what's happening in the present timeline. Oh, I really like that. And that's why he's obsessed with the Yellowjackets. He also dresses like a birder. He does dress like a birder. He wears those khaki shorts with the socks. And he loves Caligula. He loves Caligula. Who's, just to point this out in case anybody doesn't know, is a bird. Yes. An African gray, to be specific. So that's a possibility that I thought was really interesting. Why doesn't Caligula talk? Because I lived with an African gray. I lived with an African gray for years, and that fucker never shut up and repeated everything. I've often wondered about this. This is a very quiet parrot. African grays are like the smartest. Yeah. The bird that I lived with, Taz, knew and did all of our voices. There were 3 people who lived in the house, and he did all of our voices. They are notoriously extremely intelligent. Yeah. So I wonder at some point... Caligula knows better. He knows to keep his mouth shut around Misty. Exactly. I wonder if that'll come around. Yeah. While we're talking bird stuff, this isn't really anything, and I don't... But was it... Now I don't remember if it was one of our listeners who wrote in or a theory you found on Reddit about the loudspeaker, the possibility of there being loudspeakers in the woods. Yes, that was, I think someone on Reddit posted that, and I read that on one of our episodes. I don't think that's the case. I didn't then, but I thought it was really fun, and I don't think that Redditor believed it either, but that was used as some form of torture, whatever. What if I don't think this. I already said what I think the bird noises are, that it's an amalgamation of past memories of actual birds, of the girls on the tape, blah, 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 blah. But what if these people are birders and they're playing bird noises really, really loud? Because I just keep thinking like those bird noises aren't naturally occurring in the woods that way. Not that way. Yeah. Like normally when you hear a barred owl, you hear one, like you said. Right. Have you ever heard a flock of barred owls screeching together? No. I have heard two of them screeching at each other back and forth.
Right.
Which
but that's
is
not
terrifying.
Right. That's not what this is. It's more than that.
But when I went to stay in upstate New York, I was warned about the sounds because people wake up in the middle of the night and think someone's being murdered. Mm-hmm. Like literally think someone's being killed.
And it's such a fun thing that these girls are going more and more feral and then getting confused with the sounds of the wilderness out there. That's so cool.
Yeah.
The show rules.
I know. Okay. I have two more things. One is I looked at IMDb's cast list for the next episode and the following episode. So for 7 and 8. Just because, so one of our listeners contacted us on Instagram with an interesting theory that I'm going to get to in a minute. Mm-hmm. That's part 2 of what I want to say. But it got me interested in seeing on IMDb if there's anything interesting in the cast list coming up. If I could gather anything from it. In next week's cast, there are 2 unnamed characters.
Ooh. Huh?
Orderly number 2. And patient.
Oh, is this where we find out that this all happens in the mind of Lottie and she never left that Swiss hospital?
I hope not. But remember that scene of Ty in some sort of nursing home space putting a pillow over someone's face?
Is it old Joel McHale? Joel McHale? Is that what you're going to say?
I don't know, but I'm wondering if it's one of the birders. Like,
yeah. That rules.
Or connected to them somehow. But so we're getting a scene in a hospital of some kind or a nursing home or whatever. It could be Misty's nursing home, obviously.
It could be. But we know at some point in the season we're going to see Ty try to smother somebody who looks like
and there's only so many episodes left.
And only so many people that who would Ty be interested in killing?
Right. And so the other thing that I saw in IMDb was in episode 8, which we have already seen a plot synopsis for.
Do we know the title of that one?
So episode 8 is A Normal Boring Life. And I just want to remind us that the synopsis is, with a possible escape from their nightmare, the Yellowjackets learn not everyone may be in a rush to leave. In the present, the unexpected return of an old teammate sends Shauna spiraling in ways that should concern everyone. Now wait for it. Remember I said I had a new theory about Mari? Mm-hmm. In the cast list for episode 8.
Hold on. If your new theory is that Mari makes it back to the present day.
I have a reason, though.
Okay. Oh, no, it's not just vibes like me.
No, it's not just vibes. Listen. Okay.
Well, it wasn't just vibes. It was also that Newsweek article or Entertainment Weekly. But anyway, go ahead. So sorry.
Yes, but now I'm coming back around on your thought process because the fact that they released that plot synopsis and we've been getting every possible clue that Melissa is coming back is starting to make me think it's not Melissa.
Yes.
What else is starting to make me think that is the fucking cast list for episode 8 because there is a child in it named Lila, who is a named actor positioned in the cast bios next to Mari, who looks just like fucking Mari.
Hell yeah. Whoop, whoop.
I need you to look at these two people
I guess the
next
other
to each
thing
other.
it could be is a flashback to Mari when she was younger. But why would they be giving us past Mari if she's not going to play a part soon, a bigger part later?
Need you to go to the page that I am putting in the chat right now and look at them next to each other, literally positioned next to each other. Tell me they are not the same face.
That's baby Mari. That's Mari's baby.
It's either baby Mari or it's Mari's baby. They look so much alike.
Could also be Melissa because, again, everybody's so sure that not too many people make it back, and some people don't want more people to make it back. Like, Melissa could also be around. I want to put a pin in that. Who cares? Whatever.
Of course it could. Yes, of course. But
here comes my girl, Mari.
This child has brown eyes and brown hair.
Mm-hmm. And her name is Lila, which is basically Mari. That's kind of the same name to me. Do you know what I mean?
So I have come back around on the Mari surviving. Also, so it's not just vibes. It's not just the Facebook thing we talked about. Mm-hmm. It's not just whoever little Lila is. It is not just the fact that it's becoming too... Well, it's not... There's one other reason. It's not just the fact that Melissa is being kind of signaled so many times in so many ways that it's going to be her, this teammate from the past. It's also the fact that we now have a dark brown haired pit girl.
Right. So that puts Marley back in play.
And we didn't think Mari was pit girl anymore anyway, necessarily.
Right.
Like it was still possible, but it was seeming less likely that maybe it would be more like Jen or someone like that. I think Mari is the mystery teammate that comes back. Because Mari would have every fucking reason in the world to hide from these bitches.
Yes, totally.
Because she is clearly now in Nat's camp of like, y'all are crazy. You killed Ben. He was my friend. He fed me. Like, I'm afraid of you. I will not be surprised if I'm wrong. I never am. But there are too many clues. I am on the Mari, and they're making her more likable this season. There's got to be a reason for that.
Unless you've been reading her correctly like me all along.
Fair.
But yes, but for everybody else, it's the only thing I'm smug about for some reason.
I know.
Mari.
They're making her more likable. I'm telling you.
I think you might. I mean, I just won't be surprised at all.
Because there's this thing where, like, we do know that Hilary Swank is probably going to appear in that episode for the first time. So that is, I think, why everyone was like, oh, Melissa, Hilary Swank, episode 8, teammate from the past. It all makes sense. And maybe it is that obvious. But
or not. Yeah. There could be a lot going on.
Yeah.
And then in that case, though, I think Mari could come back. And then I was like, but why would she be sending them the tapes and all of that? Like, why would she be trying to, like, but maybe that's something else. Maybe that is Walter. Maybe those birders, if we're deciding they're birders, are his parents, and then also Mari's around. Like, that's the thing. Who knows?
Okay. So the last thing I want to bring up. So we had a lovely message from one of our listeners on Instagram that, let me find it real quick. Okay. I hope I'm pronouncing this name right. Nakia, who brought up a couple of really interesting things. I'm not going to read the whole thing because there were a few threads and I really wanted to grab onto one of them. And so that one is, she says, I personally believe Lottie is still the Antler Queen from what we've seen in the pilot episode. What kind of sticks out to me is how when Misty is delivering the food in the pilot episode, the AQ or shaman from their original script nods their head to both sides of her, indicating they're allowed to start eating. I've always wondered if the Antler Queen is in the middle, maybe each side of her are the clans, and that is their time to come together and eat in peace or without fighting. What this made me think of...
You know how that happens, like, on Christmas with warring... Oh, is that what you were going to say?
You can't see it because it's a podcast. My arms are in the air.
I didn't think about that until just now, but I did love that theory from, I think I was like, oh, there's like something oddly sweet about that when we were talking with that listener.
Famously from 1914 in World War I, the British and the German troops met on Christmas Eve because the British forces heard German troops opposite them from in the trenches singing carols. And so they came together to put their arms down and share a meal and play football. They also buried casualties.
Capture the bone.
Yes. They also buried their casualties, repaired trenches. So the reason this is interesting to me, and this is where my brain really starts to like go nuts. Someone named Ominous Percussions, I fucking love Reddit, posted, this isn't that crazy, but the 1997 Canadian Thanksgiving was October 13th, the same day the 1972 Andes Mountain plane crash occurred.
Fun.
Now wait for it. Those survivors were out there for 72 days, which would lead to a rescue on Christmas Eve, I think.
Oh, I love it.
This could just be me getting too red string, but
that's so
the
fun,
Christmas
though.
Eve, the truce, the comment about the Antler Queen kind of like nodding to two separate clans on either side of her. What if they...
Well, and the timing is about right.
Yeah, because they crashed in the spring, in May, and they say 19 months. What if they get fucking rescued on Christmas Eve? What if we're seeing the Antler Queen feast thing as the last moment in the woods before they get rescued?
Yeah. And then Good Riddance Time of Your Life plays. I love that. One tiny note. I have two tiny notes, actually, that I forgot to mention. One is that this episode being... I love that so much. We're going to have to talk more about that. One is that this episode being called Thanksgiving Parenthetical Canada, I thought was a little odd. If you Google it, though, what's so funny is that's how it's written on Wikipedia. That's the only other place it really comes up, written that way, as opposed to like Canadian Thanksgiving. And so there's just something so like clinical about that. I don't know how to explain it exactly. I just thought that was cute. They were like Thanksgiving Canada, like disambiguate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other thing is the song that's playing when Nat kills Ben is Be There by Low. Do you happen to know, I don't know how much you know about Low, but I mean, all of their songs are sad and beautiful. They're a duo. The lyrics to this one, I don't want to be there when you're wrong. I don't want to be there when you find out. I don't want to be there when you break glass. I don't want to be there when they drag you out. You can't speak backwards. You can't save the animals. And I don't want to be there when you're wrong. I don't want to be there when you find out. I don't want to be there when you break glass. And I don't want to be there when they drag you out. It's on an album called Songs for a Dead Pilot that is a reference to a real story in the 90s of a pilot who crashes and dies.
What?
Which is just like, not a theory. It's just like a fun little connection. But I know you've got some other stuff you want to round up for us.
There's a couple other little, things to throw on the old corkboard. I can't take credit for this. I try to quote sources, as we know, because that's how I live. And so someone named, hold on, let me pull this up because this is important. I can't not credit them.
Agent Gray?
Yeah, Agent Gray.
What's Walter's handle?
Oh, putting the sick in forensics.
That's so long.
I feel like it is long. I feel like we should come up with our own.
Who you would be.
Oh, wait. Actually, my actual Reddit name is perfect for this.
Yeah. Do you want to shout it out on the podcast?
I don't know. Do I?
It's up to you.
I mean, I post on Reddit about our podcast, so I guess it's okay. But yeah, my handle on Reddit is Mims the Word, which
that is perfect.
It is perfect because that's my middle name is Mim.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bella Loca 247. Full credit. Okay. Was watching season 1 again while having lunch and noticed that the phone number that Adam Martin writes on Shauna's arm when they first meet is legible. And so looks it up, and the area code is 273. Where's 273?
Well, I know where it isn't. It's certainly not a Jersey area code.
No, it would be 201-973.
Right. 856 609.
609 908.
Did you say 201?
Sorry, that was ridiculous. 273 is Canada, Andrea. It's Canada.
Okay. Any other show, I'd be like, so what? They picked a phone number. But we know 555 is the standard.
Yes.
Unless you are pointing to something. And also, we know that Yellowjackets is thoughtful about their phone numbers.
Right. And even if somebody suggested in this thread that I was looking at that maybe 273 is the 555 of Canada, right?
Oh.
But they're supposed to be in New Jersey. They would just use 555.
Right.
Like...
and also, is 273 the 555 of Canada?
I don't know.
I'm sure we could find that out.
Yeah, and it could be nothing. Lots of things could be nothing. However...
Could be nothing.
Could be something.
What would that something be?
I don't know. But, so this is the person's... So they said, we know it's his personal cell phone, right? Because she calls it. And so he looks it up. It's a potential Canadian number. They say, considering nothing of his existence can be truly corroborated by the characters as far as his online presence, having books about the Yellowjackets, his paintings of Shauna, makes me wonder if he has more to do with the girls.
Are you spitting any theories?
This is so new to my brain. I literally hadn't had coffee yet even this morning when I was scrolling on Reddit and saw this. But yeah, the poster said, here I was just minding my own and eating my leftover stir fry for lunch. And then I gasped and was like, did we all collectively miss a phone number for 3 to 4 years? Yeah, they tried calling.
We didn't know how serious it was going to be yet.
I know. Well, and so this person was a lost obsessive, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they say that since the show uses live numbers for the New Jersey, New York regions and has done all of these like recordings and stuff, that it would be a weird thing for them to do, to give him a Canadian number for no reason. Yeah.
What if, we were just talking about the possibility that what do you call these bird scientists, ornithologists? Is that right?
That's correct.
That the easiest theory, because of what that man looks like and, just everything about him and everything about Walter, is that that's Walter's dad. What if they bring Adam's story back to us after talking a whole bunch of shit? Wouldn't that be so
That's
funny?
What I'm saying is like I could picture just like Ashley and Bart laughing at us this whole time as everyone's like, what about Adam? What about Adam? And they're like, just wait.
I would love that.
Yeah. So anyway, we still might not have any Adam coming back to us, but this was an interesting...
It is interesting.
Okay. So I wanted to mention that. And then the other thing, I just want us... this isn't even a theory. This is just, I want to remind everyone how excited I got about trigonometry and surveying. And I want to put a pin in this. If you haven't been listening to us since season 2, I'm sure I could find the episode number somewhere, but I went off about how interested I was in this idea of trigonometry, how much it's been brought up, the flash of light.
Not one of those girls gave a good GD about trigonometry.
There we go. So I just want to put a pin in that, because mostly for my own ego. So when it comes around that the flash of light from the window was some sort of surveying equipment, and that these 3 wanderers in the woods are actually like land surveyors or scientists investigating the former mine that was there, that was, a land use survey was done before the mine was created, and that's why there's surveying equipment.
Oh, I wonder.
But also in recent episodes, someone had brought up the sounds of fracking. Mm-hmm. And fracking also requires land surveying before it's, before or during when it's done. Also, an alternate name for instruments used in land surveying are heliotropes.
Right.
Like, this is not nothing. So I don't have a theory. I've always had a theory. It's not a new theory. My theory is they don't bring up trigonometry 27 times for no reason.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think you're right.
I just want people to, when I'm right about all of this, I want it on record.
That could be the name of this podcast.
I know. That's the reason we're doing it. It's just so I can be right. I've been wrong plenty. But last thing, someone on Reddit named Ralia Dose said, they pointed out that both Nat and Coach Ben say something along the lines of, "You'll have to look me in the eye when they're about to be killed."
I thought about that, yeah.
Yeah, and connected it to the man with no eyes, who symbolizes death, because Ty, when she takes over, she is other Ty, and therefore she is the man with no eyes.
You people wait until we have time to talk about Freud and the uncanny. I have said it so many times in this podcast.
We're just going to have to do a separate episode.
I think at the end of the season, we'll do Jodie and Andrea pick their favorite,
Yeah, and I'll just do a deep dive into surveying, and I'll start talking about all sorts of different mirrors and lines of vision.
There's just so much about mirrors and doppelgangers and twins and like uncanny valley, like it's all. And I just quick disclaimer for anybody who like actually cares about Freud in terms of psychology. I know he's we've given the problematic disclaimer before. Freud is hashtag canceled. But when it comes to like literary and critical theory, he's so fun. He's so fun
and so influential. It's like
totally.
He can be a piece of shit and also like have influenced generations of media, even
without even realizing. But there's so much uncanny eyeball stuff in this.
I liked the idea of the man with no eyes being this like thing that we were trying to figure out for so long, and then everyone was like, "Oh, it's the ice cream guy." Okay, but it's also Ty. It's like it's the version of her that, like, when she flips, so that actual herself, her inner core soul, whatever, doesn't have to see what she's doing.
And then she can, and not only is it,
she's blind to her own actions,
quite literally.
Yeah.
And it's not even just that other Ty is something that she doesn't remember, but then she also externalizes it by putting it into the man with no eyes. So it's not even just that it's a part of her, she's fully separated from it for herself.
Right.
There's also so much like screen memory stuff. Have we talked about we are all completely beside ourselves? The book? Okay. Yeah.
I love how we were trying to keep this episode short, and it's like, but wait.
Put pins
I'm doing
in
it too. Yeah.
all of this stuff.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I could also talk about the screenshot someone took of Walter's computer screen, the folders on it, old case files, Angela Lansbury support group, mom, completed puzzles, and reputable puzzle manufacturers. Why does he have a mom folder, Andrea? Did his mom die in the wilderness in the 90s?
I just think that's got to be it. But, okay, if all of that is the case, hey, Jodie.
This episode is going to be like 5 hours long.
Guess what? I don't care. So, okay, with all of that in mind.
Is Walter's mom Pit Girl? Because no, now I really think that person is Pit Girl.
That's what I'm saying. So, okay, let's just hone in on this theory.
Okay.
We're going to play in this space. So I don't want anybody jumping in with things that contradict this right now.
Okay.
Because this is the most fun one for me. But then I have a question. So if, as it seems to be pointing to, these two bird scientists, whatever, are Walter's mom and dad, maybe, or Walter's mom, if that's not his dad. What if it's Adam's dad and Walter's mom?
Oh, Jesus
But anyway,
Christ.
but either way, and then his mom is Pit Girl or something.
Right.
That mystery remains unsolved clearly to this day. Walter, citizen detective,
maybe
comes
became
in.
one because his mom mysteriously disappeared.
Right. So then is he 100%? Do you think then he has like gotten feelings for Misty accidentally and like got caught up in it and now it's complicated for him? Or do you think he's that good of an actor?
When I'm thinking about Walter's behavior towards Misty, him being interested in her has never felt, maybe I'm wrong, but it's never felt soft and sweet and genuine. It's felt like obsessive and calculated and intellectual.
That's what I mean, though, and maybe it's because he in the same way Shauna doesn't have that part, because
exactly.
And
this. Like he can find her fascinating, which he clearly does, without like I think this is why I was like last week or the week before, like, Misty, get away from him, because he is basically, and oh my God, now I'm thinking about, I just saw an interview with Christina Ricci where she referred to the way he treated her as like abusive, like after this whole thing with Nat. And now I'm like, I don't know. I think that we've never seen evidence of him loving her in the way that we see it with the other men in this show who do actually have like a good heart. We've seen him be fascinated and interested and like obsessive.
Right. And we can see that two ways. That's how Walter, because he's such a weird little creature, shows care, or he is obsessed because he is obsessed with this case and is so interested in, So
he also is really interested in Caligula. He likes birds. So I don't know if the people in the woods, our new friends, not for long friends, have been referred to as scientists by Steven Kruger in his interviews, not birders.
They're clearly more than just like bird watching hobbyists.
Yes.
They're like studying something, is my guess.
Exactly. Because they are out there in the woods. I don't think they're like 2 miles from civilization and they just didn't know. I think they're pretty far out there. These people are out there for a reason.
Yeah, I agree.
That was it for me for my theory deep dive. I thought I was done, and then of course this morning.
It's a lot. Last thing. Next week.
In the next week's trailer, the first thing we see is our new visitors. And we see the man, we know his name now is Edwin, say, "You're all oh my God." And I think that's when he's realizing that this is the team.
It's the Yellowjackets, yeah.
Yeah. And then we hear Shauna standing with who I think is going to be Pit Girl saying, "We can still get rescued without leaving any witnesses." It kind of looks like she's about to push someone into a pit in the next little bit. And then we see adult Shauna driving to Virginia.
What's in Virginia? Do we know?
Colonial Williamsburg.
Is there a reason you answered that so quickly?
Because I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, why Virginia? What have we seen in Virginia? And Jeff was going to take them to Colonial Williamsburg.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yes. That's why. Not just randomly brought up Colonial Williamsburg.
I didn't know you were such a Colonial Williamsburg head.
No, it's from the episode where Jeff wanted to, surprise her and do something crazy. Go to Colonial Williamsburg.
You think they've been to Wild West City?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that, she's figured out that this is Melissa or someone and is going to find them.
That's right. That makes sense.
The next scene is her talking to Van and them saying, like, what are you going to do to this woman? And Shauna saying, "I'm going to sit her down and have a gentle, reasonable conversation with her."
So this woman, I know that could mean anything, but doesn't that feel like it's not one of the other Yellowjackets?
Maybe.
Would you say this woman about one of your teammates?
Yeah, maybe not. I know. I thought about that too. It doesn't feel exactly like it should to me if it was Melissa.
Right. But who knows?
But who knows? Yeah. But now after seeing the introduction of these new scientists, like, it does make it more likely, or more at least possible, that it's related to them and not to Melissa.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I just noted in this interaction in this trailer that she is wearing the white flannel that we see her wearing in all of the interactions with, like, there's... In the trailer for the full season, she's wearing that white flannel, I believe, when she's interacting with Hilary Swank.
Okay.
So that's like, this trip is, I believe, going to continue into episode 8, which is the big episode.
And that's when we think we're going to meet Hilary Swank. We were already theorizing that before this trailer.
And then we see a shot of people walking in the woods. We see that image of Lottie with blood on her face. And then the last thing in that little next week on trailer is Van sounding like a scared little kid, saying, we need to find these people so we can go home. This to me is like, I think this is where the split happens. It was beginning with Ben, and now what we do with these, visitors is one more dividing line between people who want to stay and people who want to go, basically.
I think that's right.
Not a whole lot, but, we know that Shauna's going to go learn some U.S. history and, maybe intern in one of the, old-timey shops or something.
That's great.
Yeah. Shauna's vacation.
Get some hot cider.
Internship.
Eat at the tavern.
Yeah.
Make some paper.
Yeah. Exactly.
They could just go to Old Stonehouse Village for all of that, though. They don't have to go all the way to
There's so many opportunities in New Jersey.
Batstow.
Yeah. Space Farms.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Space Farms is not exactly historical, but Anyway.
Plenty of the school field trip opportunities.
Absolutely. Anyway, that's the trailer.
Okay, so that was a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one. But, I think probably the biggest episode of the season thus far. So
yeah.
I don't want to promise that we won't do that again, but
we'll do our best.
We'll try.
So we'll see everybody next week. But in the meantime, where can they find us?
They can find us on Instagram at WatchersPodNJ. They can find us at WatchersPodNJ@gmail if they want to send us their choices for possible adult Maury actresses.
Perfect. I love that.
And they can find me on Instagram at Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM.
And I'm at AQ Andrea Q.
And we will see you next week.
In Colonial Williamsburg,
I think.
I'm just assuming.
That's right. Yep. We'll head down there with Shauna.
That's right. Goodbye.
Bye.